Rahabat Moisar, and welcome to another live reading. Our scroll for today will be Master Secret, series number 13. The title is Divide and Conquer. Alright? Also in our Lahaj, you will say Faru Ru Kanu, Divide and Conquer. Alright, so before we get started in our reading, we're going to first and foremost acknowledge ourselves in Pawut. All right, Pawut means all. All right, our complete union. All right, so we're going to learn about divide and conquer, but we're going to first start by recognizing ourselves in Pawut, in all. All right, so we're going to acknowledge ourselves, each other, and our master teacher who sits beside me for the purpose of healing our story and bringing us together for the purpose of coming together to heal our story. All right. So let's start by our breath. We're going to take an assessment of where we are. All right. Physically, mentally, emotionally. And we have a tool called the breath. All right. So we're going to just take a deep breath in and hold it for a moment and exhale. All right. And you're going to assess where's the tension on your body, if there's tension, all right? And you're going to physiologically and psychologically evaluate yourself. Evaluate your breath, how you breathing, all right? So allow your diaphragm to move freely, all right, as nature intended, all right, as nature has designed you, all right? And you're going to remember the way that Paa Taraq will put you together, your anatomy. Are you respecting your natural design? Are you using your body as nature designed? All right. A lot of us misuse our vessel, our tool, our instrument, and we become untuned. All right. So this is an opportunity because we're fasting. This is the 6th day of our 9-day summer solstice fast. And the purpose of our fast is to heal ourselves from outside in and also inside out. All right. And we're going to assess the way we're vibrating. All right. What kind of vibration? So this is an opportunity to lift our vibration. All right. So when we pair fasting and proper breathing, all right, we're accelerating our healing. All right. So you're going to remember your diaphragm descends downward when you breathe completely. All right. So we're not going to shallow breathe. Like most of us in the West, we shallow breathe. All right. And it affects our tone. It affects our very mentality, our emotional stability. All right. So we're going to ground ourselves and uplift ourselves at the same time, because we're going to notice that the breath expands in all directions when we're breathing properly. From down, the diaphragm acting like a vacuum, pulling air downward, and acting like a vacuum into your mid-lungs, expanding outward. And as you keep inhaling, the air is also going upward until you've created the complete union, all right? And you're healing all dimensions of yourself, because the breath is the gateway between your etheric and your physical reality, all right? So heal yourself, all right? So whenever you need support, healing, love, ashuk, guidance, you're going to remember Pawut. Think of Pawut. And breathe in that love, healing, wisdom, support, and healing. And exhale that same love, wisdom, support, and healing to your fellow brothers and sisters. And that is the proper way to breathe, all right? And now you are one who is of natural nature, all right? We become back into the image of Nataru, and we become Muntaru, all right? Ones who are of natural nature, all right? So that's our task, right, in these physical vessels. After Paa Taraq la Yerawuk Yaanun. Up to Baabaa Yaanun. Up to Paa Taraq Yaanun. Up to Baabaa Yaanun. Open the way to the soul of Yaanun, Rawuk. That's the soul, also known as the breath of life, the spark of life. All right, the spirit of living. All right, that's the Rawuk. Open the way to the soul of Yaanun. Open the door towards him. All right. And as you look at the Paa symbol, you'll notice that that door is inward. All right. The very symbol takes you inward. All right. So as real as we are to ourselves and with ourselves, and as honest as we are, then we'll realize that we'll see the oneness all around us. All right. So we're putting our stories back together again. Your very dimensions. All right. Your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. All right. It's all one and the same. All right. And all your dimensions are coming together in this very moment. All right. So accept this healing, love, guidance, and wisdom, and want for your brothers and sisters the same thing you want for yourselves. I shook myself. Adoy cloud to polorat, wufakor bisamus papaut. Begin all prayers and thinking by using the all expanding. All right. Using. All right. So we have prayer, using, and all expanding. All right. Did you know your breath itself is a prayer? All right. And through that very rhythm of expansion and contraction, all right, just like nature does, all right, you're actually in the rhythm of life, all right, and you're healing your vibrations, and that's a prayer, all right, and using, all right, your breath itself is a thing of all expanding, all right, because you use a thing of opening. Your nose itself is considered a mitzvah, all right. You have a reminder right above your nose, all right, also called a mitzvah, all right, your third eye jewel, signifying your spiritual eye, all right, signifying the decalcification of your physical glands, all right, which is the gateway and the seats of your etherical reality, all right. So you see that your spiritual and your physical, all right, is all side by side or all one, all right. So begin all prayers and thinking by using the all expanding, all right. Be sparked in the all expanding. Thinking itself, you're tapping into the mental reservoir, all right. So baror, 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 nabab, nadad, muktad. Nahut muktad bedet patah. Nahut muklas bedet Yaanun, which means holy, 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 Master Overseer Almighty. All right. Again, you're reminded about the might of all right, the Almighty. That's the holy seed, all expanding gases, all space and time, nine mind reasoning, all right, your full potential, all right, in the all existing gases. No God except Ptah, all right, as you take responsibility, the helping hand is at the end of your own arm, all right, and one of Baba seats is Ptah. Ptah is the opener, all right, and you are encouraged to become a mukta, all right, or a tahite, one who is open, all right. So remember your place in the all right, and you share in that wisdom, all right, by taking responsibility, because your responsibility is to respond. So Baba sparks us, and we respond just like your neurotransmitters. All right. So study the nervous system. All right. And that's how whatever's going on in any part of your body, you have a collective awareness. Right. And no savior except Yanun, because you cannot lie to yourself. And I affirm that I am in the divine love of the all expanding, and all divine love is in me. Hatakud. Anuki Jawef Pa Ashok M Pa Paut. Wukalal Ashok Awun Jawef Niya. Anuki Kasamun M Pa Paut. Wu Pa Paut Kawun Kasamun M Niya. Anuki Wahu Ame Pa Paut. Wu Pa Paut Kawun Wahu Ame Niya. Nakok Kador Naja Ame Kasam Un Em Pa Paut. Wu Kabub Ame Mushkas Un. Nakuk Kado Kawan Kalau Pafef Nakuk Ayo Jawef Pa Paut. Ame Wase Ame Ayani Kawun Lake Bakoy Jawef Pa Paut. Anuki Abebi Ye Nafashni. Pa Paut Kawun Anuki. Pa Paut Kador Nakuk Kador. Pa Paut Amor Nakuk Amor. The all is, I am. The all can, I can. And the all does, I do. Why? Because they are me and I am them. Panadaru, the very forces of natural nature. So this is for them, from us. Lahehu manehnu antum ave kareru antum ave karerkum antum ave karenu antum ave jewefniya antum ave niyahu anukihu yaye ashukreye ashmu jayehnu yaye nataru alfuknu nahun ate bukrarukum yaye nataru alfuknu alfuknu yaye natarunu Anun Atun Atun Amun Taukum Nadaru Wumuntaru for support in our healing. And Tawakum Mundar Baabaa Yaanun in the personage of His Excellency Malachi York Okran Zeti for bringing us together for the purpose of healing our story, and Tawakum for this very information itself that was sent down for us as a guidance and a healing. And we accept this healing the same way that we ask for acceptance. We accept our master teacher, we accept natural nature's healing, and we accept this information itself. And we receive that this book was sent down as a guidance and a healing. And this is the truth and the way. Pasawabu Paa Taraq. Panin misfa kawun. Pasawabu Paa Taraq. Ze kawunana zulala he amtkun. Mane maspatwu masa. Ama hadea mumuda ma'un. Mane muslafukum. Unataru. Arjula ye nafashukum. Alfukshane kaunku. Asawabu Paa Taraq. Pahadea mupadama. Nahun sawuanskum. Lahe panendama ushafe. Nahun sawuanskum. Lahe tem nasoinu. Nahun sawuanskum. Lahe ashakuma. Anskuma der muslafunu. Nahun ader mukradukum. Nahun salub nasakuma. Nahun salub nasakuma. Ansanun kahena taru. Ansanun muslafulun. Nahun ater muspatu. Anu atun. Atun. Amu. We are Sabians. Tawakum nataru wumuntaru. Tawatak Baabaa Yaanun for incarnating for the purpose of healing our story for this day and time. And Tawakum to us, Moisar, as we are doing our very best to transform into the very best versions of ourselves in our one collective body. And Tawakum to Muslafu, our ancestors, because we're still here. And our scroll for today will be Fauk Wu Khalub, Divide and Conquer. Master Secret, number 13. A little bit about the author. Baabaa Yaanun, the master teacher. His Excellency, Malachi Z. York or Kran. Kabina means born on Tuesday. All right. June 26, 1945 AD in Ghana, Africa. And notice Baaba's coordinates as Baabaa taps in. All right. For the purpose of bringing us this scroll today. All right. One of Baaba's hats that he wears is transmitter. All right. So just think of the neurotransmitters. All right. And Patah. So as you are sparked, all right, your responsibility is to respond. All right. And then as you look at the nervous system, you notice that each spark sparks another spark until the body is fully awakened. All right. So which is why you will see the scroll of eyes, all right, or all eyes coming together, all right, on the common theme, common idea as we come together with this scroll, all right. So feel free to unmute and participate, all right, as we're all here to heal ourselves inside out and outside in, all right. The master secret, Farouk Wu Kalub, divide and conquer. 1. Aye Marid, Haradu Shalil, Wunuwa, Panen Kawun Wakut Nun. 2. Pa Kasu, Wakut Kawun Nahoy, Manen Pa Shamut, Atu Afa. Pafev Kawuna, Pa Shamut Satu Afa. Adamu Wakut, Temnun, Ama Pa Nagaru. 3. Nakuk Pa Nabal, Yananan, Kawuna Nazura, Lahe, Amtkum, Karer, Paa Taraq, Aye, Kawum, Paa Taraq, Pa Hakak, Taraq. 4. Anuki Pa Munkar, Munkar. Anuki Pa Munkar, Pa Munkar, Pa Mujdad, Lahe Panen Zamut, Wu Wakut, Amtkum, Khalas, Abdoy, Janet Bini. 5. Nakuk Butem, Dayor Lake, Hasor Tem, Wahu, Manen Shalil, Amtkum. 6. Amtkum Kador, Nadoy Ni, Bi Aye Ranan. Amtkum Habub, Anuki, Yaka, Anuki. 7. Rasula Lake, Khalus Amtkum. 8. Pa Kakasu, Wu Pa Arabu, Wahu Talub Lake, Faruk Wu Khalub Kun, Aye Salal, Manen Amtkum, Kum Hadub. 9. All right. Don't worry, we're going to translate it. All right. We're going to translate very shortly. 9. Wu Nakuk Yatuya Karir Pa Shafui. 10. Avkur Nakuk Kahuna Tunen Ayer Kahun Hunen Lame Pa Madad Marat Kahuna Natuka Akhun. 11. Faya Asrub Manen Shanesh Nakuk Yatuya Lake Jabub Lahe Amtkum. 12. Wu Abro Munen Shanesh Nakuk Nazura Karer Wu Haya Anuk Ama Mukdadu Ama Kum Kawuna Ladura Pa Wahan Salal Shakasu Hayen Panen Kawak Taha. Right? As we're reading, and Miss Batia, just challenge yourself to see how much you're comprehending. Right? 13. Wu Butem Nasoy Hasut Amtkum Anud Pa Hakakat Anen Nafas Kum Adrus Wu Almud. 14. Wu Hasut Pafef Pa Nasor Yatuya Wu Kasura Pa Katam Patu. Lahe amtkum. Anshor zi lahe pa tapal. 15. Ashor anunun sabatu. 16. Pa yakaru kabelni kaduyaten lamud shanesh nakuk lamud. 17. Panen kawun tankal kum. 18. Saduk kawun saduk. Hakakat ather hakakat. Wu anuki pa taraq aitoy layeni. 19. For I have what you need, Nazula, sent down to you as your Tankat salvation. 20. I am your Karui reminder. I am your reminder, your savior, your warner, your renewer, your healer, and your guide. 21. For the here on earth after the end of the Adamite, and the Edomite Tardad dominion over you by way of 6,000 Shamut year, hypnotic spell of Faruq wu Kalub, divide and conquer, enforced by the Celtic, and Celtic, all right, spelled with the S-K or a C, all right, Ashahu, females of what became Wiccan religion, taught to them by the Sawawu sons of the Kamayu aliens, who Gauba raped them, called the Sawatatu daughters of the Enosites, or the forgetful mortals. All right, let's stop there for a moment. All right, so we're talking about the ones of the Wiccan religion. All right, sometimes Baabaa refers to as witches. All right, so now we have more insight of, well, what really is a witch, because Baabaa also has said that we have witches right in our tribe. All right, so now we have a little bit more of a definition. All right, because what is a witch? All right, and it means the daughters of the forgetful ones. All right, so when we forget our place in Pa'ut, all right, it cuts off that line or that lineage. All right. So that's a little bit of a clue. All right. So 22. Who then gave? All right. So now look at this. Look at that whole story. All right. The daughters, all right, of the forgetful ones, the forgetful mortals. All right. Because whenever you forget your divinity, you drop down to mortality. All right. Or in a state of death, because mortal means death. All right. And then also it's also stating that also they were raped. All right. So in that forgetful state. All right. So we also learned the importance of healing our mothers once again. All right. Because it is actually our mortals who are the gateway on this planet. All right. So so now let's see what happened. All right. 22. Who then gave Ladud birth to Giborites or tyrants, known as demigods, wicked and evil chaotic giants. 23. Who themselves made a covenant with the Homosaurus or reptilians from the Draco star system, Pa Mutnanu or Tananu, Draconians. 24. Joining on to them, as did Pa Mukmahu or Pa Kamahu, known as the Palladians. the original Manashu, parents of the Nordic or the Norse, the Nordics or the Norse. All right. 25 to join on is Lawi or Levi in a later tongue Hebrew as the Lawi or the Levi. Join and Tan or Tanan or Tanin or Tanin, all right, as dragon, beast, monster, hideous, a will, all right, or sea serpents or serpents. And together it became Leviathan, all right, or Leviathan, or Lawi Tanan, all right. So Leviathan, all right, or the Levi priesthood, how they go around and their purpose was to infect all others, join in, all right, and disconnect all others and have us join on unto them, all right. So we joined unto the beast. So we now learned later about the mark of the beast. We learned that is now, we learned later that we're talking about genetic markers, all right. And many of us, because of mixing, rape, and for things that happen to our people, we actually carry the genetic markers of the beast, all right? And that's what we're healing from. That's why we have our number 3 chant, all right? And if you really pay attention to the chant, we are calling out to natural nature, our ancestors, Muslafu, all right, connected to natural nature, and to protect us from Tananu, all right, or from the beast, all right, because within our nature, all right, we may have both, all right. So our good ancestors can protect us from the wicked ones, all right, within us, all right, and also around us, all right. So it's an inside and outside chant, all right, and it's an inside and outside journey, all right. So that's why it's very important that we're studying all this that has happened to the planet, because a lot of us might think, what does this have to do with me? All right, I'm Nagaru, all right, but within your story, you may have genetic markers and certain tendencies, and you'll be able to learn more about various parts of the nature, all right, that you are overcoming, all right. And that's why we'll read so much biblical stories, Quranic stories, because you'll see whether it's directly affecting you or indirectly in some way, all right? So this is what happened, the rape, all right? The forgetfulness of our mothers, all right? And it makes me also remember this this commercial about roaches. It was actually a commercial about roaches. And they said that it was, I remember watching this commercial as a child, and it was like feed the poison to the mother so that when the mother gets the eggs, it's already poisoning the egg and all that, and then you'll affect the whole lineage. And that's how you get rid of all the roaches, all right? So, you know, how they untune the women, all right? So, and then they create gateways for themselves, all right? And then they have us looking towards them, all right? Forgetting our whole lineage back to natural nature, all right? So let's get back to our reading. But this is all things to remember and put together, all right? 26, all right? So those who joined on to them became Mukshafu or Kashafu, witches, all right? They became witches or witchcrafts or spellcasters, witchery, sorcery, charms, as you read in their Bible book of Jesus, their Christ, and Revelations chapter 13, verses 1 through 18. 27. That 18 or 3 times 6 leads you to Revelation 18, verses 1 through 24. There in verse 23, you will read, you will see, for by your sorceries were all nations deceived, which leads you to Revelations 12, verse 9, where you read how the dragon, Nashu, deceives the whole Tapa world, and verse 12, cast down to Taha, earth. All right. So Revelations chapter 12, verses 9 reads, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into earth, and his angels were cast out with him. All right. So let's also think of the serpent. A lot of times you see the serpent also doubling as the kundalini. Some people call it all that energy that goes up and down your spine. So now you just think of nervous system. And Baabaa explained also what happens to women, the different traumas that happens in our genes and in our nervous system, that by, let's say, 4 mates, abuses and different things, we start to say, well, men get on my nerves. And Baabaa explains that's because your nervous system has actually been infiltrated, and that there is actually men in your nervous system, and you must heal that, your nervous system again, all right? Or your energy centers, because you notice that even though our energy centers are in our organs, all right, because the organs and the glands, that's where the hormones are secreted, all right? And our hormones is actually the gateway through the ethers, right? Because you tapping into the hormones when you go into the emotional, all right? So the emotions have been distorted. The hormones have been confused, all right? Dysregulated, all right? The nervous system is erratical, all right? So you've lost control, all right? So it's time to gain control again, all right? So the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world, he was cast out into earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Remember the other scroll we read, planet Earth is woman, all right? So that was the infiltration and invasion of planet Earth, or the women itself, all right? The nervous system of us as a collective became disorientated, all right? Malachi chapter 3, verses 5 reads, and I, as Malachi, am here to warn you of these religions created by these sorcerers, all right? Then there's other books and verses you could read within the Bible. Exodus chapter 7, verses 11. Jeremiah chapter 27, verses 9. Daniel chapter 2, verses 2. Revelations chapter 21, verses 8. And Revelations 22, verses 15. For they, as warlocks, are the Sawau sons of witches, of the Wiccans, called Druids. And Isaiah 57, verses 3 reads, but draw near hither, ye sons of sorcerer, the seed of the adulterer and the whore, and live by it to this Sawau sons. Only they use New Rananat's names for their Kadem Zaamat, ancient religions. All right. So these are ancient religions that they keep repackaging, all right, over and over to feed to different people. All right. So you'll be able to notice whatever form it takes. All right. Because we also learned in the planet Earth is woman, that many of us became untuned by mixing in with the beast, and beasts with dark skin, all right? Because many of us were already, I guess, born to these, we were disconnected already, all right? And a lot of us, without realizing it, we have the people born amongst us that look like us, and they don't necessarily all have a soul. So nowadays, we can't really tell just by looking at a person, as that book explained. All right. So the beast agenda may be in a darker person because those beast genetics are also in that darker person at many times. All right, because that was the job of uh, Leviathan, all right, to go around and to get into the genetics, because Baabaa has also said in order to affect, you have to first infect. And the people on this planet has already been infected. All right. That's why we have this healing and cure right now. All right. So so you'll be able to see whatever we package, all right, as the spell reinvents itself. All right. You can see. So let's read that again. All right. So for as warlocks are the Sawahu sons of witches, of Wiccans, called Druids. Isaiah 57 verses 3. But draw near hither, ye sons of sorceress, the seed of the adulterer and the whore, and live by it to this Sawahu sons. Only they use new Rananat's names for their Kadem Zaamat's ancient religions. All right. You can read more about it in Isaiah, verse 47. Chapter 47, verse 9. Isaiah, chapter 47, verse 12. Acts, chapter 8, verse 11. Revelations, chapter 9, verses 21. And Revelations, chapter 18, verses 23. To this day, ancient religion has become known as Abrahamism, Mosesism, Jesusism, Mohammedism. All right. So it's just renamed itself in these forms. All right. But it actually goes back to older, all right, agenda. All right. Broken up into many groups, sects, denominations, cults, and clans. They are all just covens. All right. So for example, you might have Rastafarianism. All right. Doesn't everybody, like, for the most part, when you think of Rastafarianism, you think of a person with melanin, all right, with 9 ether hair, all right. But where does it take you back to? It takes you back to the Old Testament, all right. So you're going back to Abrahamism, all right. You're going back to Mosesism, all right, or whatever sect that you see. Nation of Islam, all right. When you think of Nation of Islam, you're thinking of again, brown people, all right, but it takes you right back to Mohammedism, all right. So you'll be able to see, no matter how much it disguises itself, you'll be able to see the many repackaging of the spell of Leviathan, all right. So it's broken up into many groups, sects, denominations, cults, and clans. They are all just covens, all right. So we'll be able to recognize whatever. You'll be able to recognize the pattern of Leviathan, no matter what other flavor it's given to you. All right. You don't like vanilla? I'll just give it to you in chocolate. All right. But you're still getting that same Leviathan. All right. 28. They made covenants with alien beings. Muzyad mutatalug. So Muzyad mutatayalu, extraterrestrials. All right. That's one of the ways, mutatayalu or mutatalu. I've seen it that way. So Muzyad mutatalu, that means extraterrestrials. They worship as deities, as well as these alien offsprings, who they call sons of God or God or son of God. All right. So notice in many of their religions, all right, they give some type of deity, all right, an extraterrestrial that's usually coming from up somewhere, all right, and they give a deity status, and then you have always some type of blood lineage coming from this deity status, all right, the sons of God, all right, and they can be, some are malevolent or good, and some are malevolent, evil. All right. 31. And gave the power to the Adamites to become 3. Maleficent. Maleficent. 32. As a result of the grafting and separating with their Yakasat's genes, they became hybrid and deformed as 1. Malformation, as in abnormal bodies, and 2. Malfunction, as in abnormal minds. All right. So we're going to stop right there. I've been noticing they've been doing a lot of gene editing. All right. I spent all last year just in like biological science museums. All right. And I learned a lot about, genes and different things that they're working on. And they know something is wrong with their genetics. That's why they're doing so much splicing, because they're trying to edit the deformities out of their genes. However, when you edit, all right, because like another thing that they're doing, that they're editing on how to edit for something, example like HIV, how to edit HIV out of the genetics. So they were saying that they found that they were able to they're working on that right now, that they can possibly just edit the code out of the genes. But the funny thing is, a lot of the times there's so much intricate and fine wiring to natural nature that when you start snipping something, you might cure one thing and cure a malfunction in something that you don't even consider. All right. So a lot of the times they talk about junk DNA. A lot of times they didn't even know how the tonsils worked. So they said, oh, your tonsils are swollen, let's just cut it out. And now we see that the tonsils actually help to support other glands and other organs. All right. And it has to do with something about vibrating the rest of your body. All right. So without the tonsils, your body doesn't have that complete vibration. All right. So, and then also during my fast, I also happened to have a hives just showed up, an allergic reaction. I'm like, how did that happen? I've just been so clean this whole month. That hasn't happened to me for years. And then I was like studying the body more, and I was looking at different things that can cause hives. And one of the causes actually could be vibrations. And that wasn't on like any metaphysical site. That was actually like a science site, that different things that intakes even vibrations. All right. So distorting the vibration ever so slightly can cause a big detriment somewhere either close or somewhere down the line. All right. So nature is meant to work itself out. All right. And a lot of the times that's what we're being given in tools. That's why the helping hand is at the end of your own arm. So you could apply these facts, and you're actually rewiring the brain rather than snipping out something like, I wish I could just forget that thing ever happened. But no, that's not the way nature works. You must work out that problem. All right. And realign it. All right. So we're going to go back to 32. As a result of the grafting and separating with the Yakasat genes, they became hybrids and deformed as 1. Malformation, abnormal bodies, and 2. Malfunction, abnormal minds. The result you see are how they live in the image of Mukrabu and Karabu, cherubim, sons of Elohim, Nephilim, who are the disagreeable angelic beings. 33. So they are malefactors by their disagreeable, wicked, evil, unnatural, fatal nature, as their own Safa book of Moses says. In Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 5. All right. So this is not a dig at the mills at all. I'm not taking a dig at the brothers, but also break down that word mill factors. All right. So malefactor by the disagreeable. And we see that the word actually breaks down to male factor. So it goes back to our mothers, all right? It's actually our feminine factor that needs to be healed, all right? Because these male factors are coming through the disagreeableness of their mother's forgetfulness, all right? Or her malfunctions is ushering in this whole race of malfunction, all right? 34. All right, so malefactor, let me spell it for you. Malefactors. All right. 34. These Sawawu sons of Gadadu, gods, who came down and Rasuba raped the Adamu Sawatatu, Adamite daughters, and Lamuda taught them Laben Magas, white magic. All right. White magic. What is white magic? White magic is mastering illusion. All right. So the shadows and the colors, because white magic, what does it do? It divides. White light divides into the rainbow. All right. You have different degrees and angles. All right. And you can put different angles against each other. All right. And you notice that sometimes mothers who are not that are in an unhealed state, they may even tend to put their children against each other. All right. Put this one's strength against that one's strength, or compare this one's weakness to that one's weakness. You'll notice that the different ways, and now the brothers and sisters don't get along. You know, you'll see that in unhealed families as well. That's part of white magic. All right. Black magic, you start with your central point. All right. So now you see the service of everything for the greater good. This child is great at this. That's the function of for the collective. That child is great at this. So you guys are taught to appreciate each other's gifts and strengths, and how you can actually combine and come together. All right. That's black magic. Because black magic takes you back to the wisdom of the collective. All right. So now I see my strength and where it's beneficial to how it benefits all of us. All right. When it comes to white magic, you start outside. All right. You start from the disconnect. All right. And you're comparing, why can't you be as good as such and such, when you guys have a different purpose to the collective, but you're no longer connected to the collective because you're part of the forgetful beings. All right. So you'll notice that. All right. White magic. All right. 35. You can read this in Genesis chapter 4, verses 22. Those who lived with the Katul or killers that Cain feared. In Genesis chapter 4, verses 14. In the land of the fallen angels or Nod. In Genesis chapter 4, verses 16. And the offspring was taught how to make weapons of brass and iron. And Lamech used as a weapon to kill a young man. In Genesis chapter 4, verses 23. All right. So let's read those different verses. So Genesis chapter 4, verses 22, it reads, and Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artifice in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Noma. Genesis chapter 4, 14 reads, behold, thou hast driven me out of this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And Genesis chapter 4, verses 16. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod, in the east of Eden. And Genesis chapter 4, verses 23. And Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech. For I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. 36. They Raku, learn all this jawedness, wickedness, from the evil and evil from the sons of gods. All right. So the sons of extraterrestrials. All right. 37. You will find this recorded in the Safahat books, now found, which completes the mission parts of the Bible and Quran held today. All right. I think it's supposed to say missing. All right. So you will find this recorded in the Safahat books, now found, which complete the missing parts of the Bible and Quran held today. 38. The books of Enoch and Jubilee give the whole story and tell how the sons of gods taught them enchantments, the art of casting hajayat spells. All right. So think of that. Casting a spell that can be done oratorily, that can be done visually. All right. That can be done vibrationally. All right. So just study light, sound, music. When you turn on a movie and you're watching a television program, all right, and you start crying for these fictitious characters, all right, because of the sound and also what you're hearing, and it affects what you feel, all right. And then you have Laben Magas, that's white magic, all right, mastering illusions, all right. Religions of Kahu, spirits, and or Narid, fire, as well as to offer jasad, flesh, and demand blood to get a reaction from the dead or demons, and the use of demand blood. All right. So you can see that has infiltrated many cultures offer blood and flesh to get the reactions from disembodied, all right, entities. All right. So all that was introduced. All right. 39. Notes Nuwapians, to attract their god or gods. He said to cut yourself so that the Daman blood will gush out. In 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 27 to 28, to also kiss for their gods. All right, so let's read that. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or a peradventure he sleepeth and must be awakened. And they cried out loud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lancets till the blood gushed out upon them. And 1 Kings chapter 18 verses 40 reads, and Elijah said unto them, take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon and slew them there. 40. So these beings, Kamayu aliens, that the Karadu children of Adam, the fair-skinned race worship, request their covenant blood and flesh offerings. All right. So even the offering of circumcision, all right, that's the covenant, all right, of Abraham, all right, that both the Muslims and the Christians, that's not something that Sabians should be partaking in. All right. A lot of us did it in ignorance. to our children and ourselves. All right. But when you start studying natural nature, study the male anatomy. All right. And when you start snipping, a lot of times we don't see the bigger repercussions. All right. That's the way of gravitation yourself. All right. Because why would nature create a foreskin if there was no use for it? All right. But I've learned a lot about the foreskin. It's filled with so much stem cells. All right. That actually is actually used for healing and different things like that. For his own body and also his partner's body. All right. So as long as we're taking care of ourselves, we have good hygiene. There's no reason, all right, by natural nature to removing that just because it's normalized in your culture. All right. In other cultures, it's normalized to remove the women's clitoris or other parts other parts of the culture. They have female circumcision, and when you study female circumcision, they're not all the same. Some parts of the world they remove the whole clitoris. Some parts of the world they remove the inner lips and the clitoris, and they remove everything, so you don't really see anything. Some parts of the world they only remove the lips, and they may leave. And some parts of the world they just take the hood off, which is that skin that goes over the clitoris, which would be equivalent. That'd be the most equivalent because the clitoris is still there. That'd be the most equivalent to the circumcision that we normalize with the males. Because like removing the clitoris would like be similar to removing the head of the penis. But if you just remove the foreskin, like in some countries that just do that foreskin flap of the women, that'd be equivalent, but that would be considered cruel and unusual here. And that's illegal in America. All right. But the reality is that it all affects us. All right. Whether it's very minute, it shows that it actually affects parts of the heart. All right. And so just these different covenants. But I also noticed that it's big industry. I'm in the beauty industry. And a lot of these stem cells and different things, placentas, the foreskin is actually a lot of it goes to medical and beauty industries. It's a big billion-dollar industry. All right. And then also there's so many industries that feed off of that life force. All right. So that's something to think about. All right. Because I know some Sabians that they're having sons and they're still circumcised. And I'm like, are we actually practicing sound right reason at this point in 2025? All right. Unless there's something wrong, that's different. All right. But you have a healthy vessel from head to toe, all parts are there. All right. You don't just go snipping. All right. All right. So let's go back. So we're in verse 40. So these beings, Kamayu aliens, that the Karadu children of Adam, the fair-skinned race worship, request their covenant blood and flesh offerings. 41. From Genesis chapter 4 verses 2 through 5. On to Genesis chapter 8 verses 20 and 21. Their gods love the smell of cooking meat, the sweet savor to them. It's a sweet savor to them. Also of human jasad flesh. In Genesis chapter 22 verses 2. These they will tell you in their own Bible that they, the seed of Adam, called 1, Mubaru, that's Hebrews. 2, Musasu, that's Israelites. 3, Musamu, that's Ishmaelites. And 4, Munsaru, that's Nazarites. That became over time 1, Mujwawu, Jews. 2, Muksasu, Christians. 3, Muslamu, Muslims. All right, so you see the evolution, all right? Because think about it, Jews originally start out as a birthright. Christians start out as you can start now from a birthright to a conversion, all right? Go convert others. And Muslims, you start to repackage, all right, for the mixed seed, all right, or the mingled seed, all right? You give them something to have an identity. So they start off with being God's chosen people. Then they start converting, which is going to cause a mixture of people. And now you're going to have the end result, which is a mixture. All right. Or the mingle seed. All right. But you notice it's the same spell just being repackaged. All right. Now with brown skin. All right. Because when you say Arab, you say mingle seed. I don't know what to expect. An Arab could be brown skin, dark-eyed, light-eyed. It could be darker skin. It's a mingle seed. I don't know. Hmm. 42. Offered originally to devils. In Leviticus chapter 17, verses 7, it reads, "And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring." All right. Interesting choice of words. All right. Because when I think of sexism, all right, the abuses to women, I think of speciesism or racism. Because if you can control the sex, all right, you think of whoring, you think of sex again. You think of taking control of that seed or the nation of people, all right? So the ultimate racism will always be sexism, all right? Because if you can control the women of that species, you now control the destiny. And that's why in the Arab slave trade, and it was very brutal in the way that they did it. What they would do in the Arab slave trade is that they would kidnap the original people, all right, mix in with them, all right, enslave them, castrate the males, and keep the women for themselves and reproduce with the women. And the men would not be able to reproduce. So they would make sure to castrate the men. And at all different ages, and the castration would be typically the removal of the entire penis. All right, the penis, the balls, everything. All right, and then you just see a space like a Ken doll. All right, and there would be nothing there. And then the women, they would keep for themselves. All right, and they would have these children be born with a new identity. You're no longer African. All right, you're Muslim, you're Arab, or whatever the case is. Right. And the women would never, ever be able to gain their freedom. All right. So they would just create this new race. And the men, the original captives, they would be able to gain their freedom as long as they denounced Africa. All right. And go to convert more. All right. So they would be put over the harems, and they would not be a threat because they couldn't reproduce, because they had no penis. And then they would do the bidding, all right, to go into Africa and convert others, all right. And that's at the base of a lot of Moorish history and Islamic history. So I would encourage us to really study the Arab slave trade, all right, and how it was practiced. And they would keep the women. So that's why East Africa, we're much more mixed. All right, that was by design. Yes. Let's see who's on mute.
Rahubat Moisa.
Rahubat Zamal Kosi.
I had a question. And I wanted to mention also that you really look nice in your outfit, in your traditional outfit. Yes. So when I think when before I started, I stumbled on the information given out by the master teacher. I was looking into all the slavery and other stuff like we were mentioning about. I remember how angry I was of all the stuff we have been going through. And my question is it's a bit complex, but I wanted to give you kind of what I'm kind of picturing. My question is kind of simple. Since our ancestors they seeded us on this planet, were they protecting us, or why were they it's kind of simple, but why were they letting all of this happen to us? Is it like something political that was going between them and the other like species? Like I remember a story about a prince and a princess of the draconian mixing together. I don't know. It's kind of I just want to know like if there was something political there where they were giving authority over the planet, and that is what allowed us to go through all this, and why they weren't like kind of protecting us and like just going down here and just fixing all this stuff, or is it like they were not just aware of what was going on? And because when I'm hearing all this information, is like there's a lot of scheme that was going, that was there was a lot of scheming, and it's like it just went over their head, or they didn't just catch on to it. So that's my question.
So when you really look, like, this wasn't an isolated event on planet Earth, because you see pale extraterrestrials, you see mixed extraterrestrials, you see wars even on Nibiru, for example, before Nibiru even comes here, being mixed with this, having a different nature, different agenda. All right. So it's a continuation. It's just a natural cycle of life. All right. So it's a continuation of a story that's ongoing. And there's been many cycles. So you see that at different times, there's different energy levels of different planets. So now we're going into a sun cycle where the planet itself, you're going to have strong genes to exist on this planet in the distant future. And you see that weaker genes are dying off and falling off as we speak. And that's why we're healing our story, so we could be part of the next dimension. And you could see that as the originals that grew wherever we grew from. When we're talking about planet Earth, we're also talking about risk. We're also talking about Sirius, A, B, and C. We're talking about even Pleiades, all right? Because Pleiades, you would see that originally they had melanin, all right? So they went through their cycles as well, all right? So that we exist in all states, but you have other entities that they come during the sleeping states. So we're still here in a more dormant or sleeping state. And for them, that's when they exist. When we're actually at our peak, they don't exist. All right. But you notice that time moves in a circle. All right. Like I like to think of a clock. That's a visual I like to have. And when I forgot what you call them, the specs. There's different, like those little circles that's in the clock. So when this one's turning over here, this one's also turning way over there. So as I'm going through my season of summer, it might be winter over there. All right. But it's all part of the all, you know. So did our ancestors know, or were they not aware? Yeah, they knew. And that's why so much has been put in place, because we lived through many reconstructions and destructions and reconstructions, and it came in many forms. So this is just one of our many, destruction is part of nature too. All right. So even though the Caucasians are unnatural nature, they still play their part in the collective. All right. And then we play our part in the collective as the articles and poets. But in poets, it's all playing its part. So that's the best way I could say it.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for the clarification. Wanted to mention something, but yeah, I kind of see what you're mentioning. So, and but I was also thinking about, like, I think when I was reading the Man from Planet Risk, it was talking about a species where the planet was destroyed, and because of Nibiru going through something, I don't remember quite well, and they had to bring them on planet risk. So I was thinking, like, if they could live peacefully with those beings, why did they have to go so bad here? But like you kind of answered the question, so that my point.
And then remember, those three major continents. So they still had to segregate. Like it wasn't like, oh, we're gonna all like just be mixed in. That wasn't even the case on Risk because they allowed and said, okay, this continent will be dedicated to you. You do what you want over there. All right. And that's how they lived in harmony by even still saying to each their own. But if they were intermingled, like let's just say on Risk, they still had order. So on Risk, this disagreeable being wouldn't be allowed in this zone. They're allowed in this zone. And that's exactly what's happening on planet Earth. Because when you think of the three major continents, you could still even think of the three major races. All right. And nature does segregate us and we start to align, and we're actually most healthy when we each go back to uh, the part of the planet that is conducive to that part of nature. All right. So we still see the usefulness even in the destruction when you think about that, when you think of poets. And I remember I had a different look of life when I went to Costa Rica and I went into the rainforest. And I was in the rainforest in Costa Rica and I looked at life and our doctrine so much differently. And and then I also read a book called The Compensatory Code by Neely Fuller. And that reminded me of walking the rainforest. So reading that book and walking in the rainforest, it made me have an appreciation for everything, even if it doesn't make sense. And Caucasians, when things don't make sense, they go to destroy it, all right, because they're not part of natural nature. But when we start thinking collectively, we start letting nature play out because we start to realize the benefit for the collective picture, even in that chaotic moment. And walking through the rainforest, I'm seeing bats. I'm seeing all kinds of things. I'm seeing destruction. And there was this one visual that you have these beautiful trees, these big, beautiful trees. And then you have vines that grow around the trees. And I had natives from that area that was just showing me around. And they explained the oneness and like you don't go and stop nature from doing what nature was designed to do. Because then you'll be out of tune with nature. Let nature play out. And the native person was explaining to me by using the vines wrapped around the tree. And they said, you see that vine that wraps around the tree? When that tree grows to a certain length, that vine will start to suffocate that tree's growth. And as it grows, it will start uprooting it and then it will collapse. And they said, well, we won't take that vine off because it keeps a divine order. Because what would happen without that vine, the tree will grow indefinitely. And then it would become so huge, it would cast a shadow. And then life won't be able to grow around that shadow. And then it would actually start to be out of tune with the cycles. So nature has its own checks and balances, even in what appears chaotic. So, for example, they don't kill the bats because the bats eat the mosquitoes, but they don't kill the mosquitoes because even though the mosquitoes might bite them, because they see the mosquitoes placed in the collective. So each one has its time to play out, all right? And it goes through its cycles. And then new life grows around it, all right? So that tree, which represents life, starts to become death when it grows beyond its function. So nature has something to uproot it, all right? And as you can see for us, as we remember who we are, not what we become, we always go back to that darkness because in my light right now, my presentation, I'm a young woman, you know, born in the United States with my you know, this is my mother on that side, my father's behind me, you know. Um, and that's uh that's dysfunction for right now. It's appropriate to what's going on right now. It's relevant to this time, space, and time. And I could play my part in this space and time without forgetting who I really am. All right. Because I'm going to outgrow this personality in time. You know, I'm going to outgrow uh, my body. All right. 4 generations, I'll outgrow that. And then I'll just be reabsorbed back into natural nature, you know. So you start seeing the oneness. So the mosquitoes, and you start not to really hate anything. The roaches, the mice, the mosquitoes, the ants, you know, you start to see, wow. So when you start to like throw something off, instead of letting nature play out. So that's how I would answer that, you know. So our ancestors had the wisdom to let nature play out. All right. And those of us who will round ourselves out and come back home, you know, some of us will make it, some of us won't. And that's just how nature goes. All right. That's what the Native American, the native guy, he taught me that. All right. So let's continue. So yeah, all right. So 41. From Genesis chapter 4, verses 2 through 5, on to Genesis chapter 8, verses 20 through 21. Their gods love the smell of cooking meat, a sweet savor to them, also of human jasad flesh, in Genesis chapter 22, verses 2. These they will tell you in their own Bible. They say the seed of Adam. All right. I'm going to make a confession. I also like the smell of burning flesh. To me, it smells good. All right. So it tells you that, you know, you can't just erase something that needs to play out. So my genes can play out too. All right. And it will be a more complete story. All right. So, and if a lot of us are honest, we like that. And it's funny because I have my nieces and I don't cook meat. I'm not a big meat eater. But sometimes like I'm walking and I'm like, it smells good to me. Um, And for some other people, it's a turn off. They don't like to see it. They don't like to smell it. And I remember when I was very young, it actually used to make me throw up. You know, it used to make me nauseous. And I remember one time I smelled the garlic and I walked closer and it was actually somebody cooking pork. And everybody was like, it smells so good. I got so sick. All right. And I had to. Uh, so there's different genes going on. But at some point I liked it. So my niece, they were like I always cook vegetables. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna give them a treat. I'm gonna give them some chicken because I don't want them to just be like Auntie's house. It's just like she doesn't do anything. I'm like, I had to balance it out as well. You can't be too extreme. I have to let their genetics work itself out too. And it's like it's in their genes to like the meat. So I had to give it to them sometimes, you know. So I remember I was cooking and one of the nieces, she didn't know that I was cooking meat, but she just said, she just came, what's that delicious smell? And it just drew her out of wherever she was. And I was just laughing. I was like, you reptilian, you know, um, so it's like the different things that, you know, we've already been affected. So we have to work it out so we can start ummingling ourselves. We've been mingled in and we unmingle ourselves so we can outgrow. You say burn out the desires. All right. So we have Hebrews, Israelites, Ishmaelites, Nazarites. And over time, they became Jews, Christians, and Muslims. All right. Offered originally to devils. All right. Verse 42. Leviticus chapter 7, verses 7 reads, and they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout their generations. All right, throughout their genetics, a new genetic agreement. In Deuteronomy chapter 32 verses 17 reads, they sacrificed unto devils, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. All right. So new genetics are being introduced. All right. So you're being introduced to new extraterrestrials. All right. So let's just take the word God out, just put extraterrestrials or new family lines. All right. So that's why you have different tendencies. Within my family, I'll give you an example. We're not really big meat eaters, but we all have our own thing. Like this sibling, and we're all very unique. All right. I have maybe one sibling that eats beef. All right. I have another sibling, no cheese, no, none of this. Another sibling, only fish. Another sibling, purely vegetarian. And it just goes to show there's different things happening in the genetics, all right, in the same family, all right. So it's like, you know, you have to discuss, okay, what do you want, all right. And then also, they all have the same blood type except me, you know. So that's another thing as well. That everybody, all my siblings and my mother, they have their own blood type. Me and my father, we have our own blood type. I'm the only one with his blood type. All right. So 44. All right. So to these aliens, let's go back. 43. And if you read the book of Leviticus, chapters 1 through 10, you will see them cooking and eating these: 1, offerings; 2, oblations; and 3, sacrifices. To these alien extraterrestrials, whom they call Lord, Yahweh, Rab, God, El, Elo, Allah, who were gods, Elohim, Allahats, who were no more than aliens come down to Taha earth, walking on earth. In Genesis chapter 3, verses 8, coming down to earth. In Genesis chapter 11, verses 5 through 7, eating flesh on earth. In Genesis chapter 18, verses 1 through 8. All right. So remember the different stories of getting visitors. All right. The story of Abraham. All right. He's with his wife, and these angels come to his tent, and he's like, let me feed you, let me wash your feet and feed you and give you something to drink. And then the angel said, then go and do what you say you're gonna do then. So he runs and says, quickly dress this calf so I can give it as food. And he runs to his wife and says, quickly make some bread so we can feed these angels, as they call them, angels. All right. So there's a lot of cultures that they eat the meat raw. All right. So he didn't say cook the meat, he said dress the meat. All right. So when you dress something, you just season it up, dress it. So he gave them raw meat, and they cooked the bread real fast. And that's what those angels ate. All right. So they were eating flesh on earth. All right. And there were many Kamayu aliens who came to earth, as you read in Psalms 68:14, verses 18. When the Almighty scattered kings in it, it was white as snow in Salmon. The hill of God is as the hill of Bashan, and a high hill as the hill of Bashan. Why leap ye high hills? This is the hill which God desireth to dwell in, yet the Lord will dwell in it forever. All right. So God has a preference to, I want to stay here. I like this hill. All right. So this is where that God, that particular extraterrestrial, whoever they were dealing with, that's where that God wanted to dwell, in that particular high hill. The Lord would dwell in it forever. The chariots of God were 20,000, even thousands of angels. All right. So they're God and those angels. All right. So his subordinates, most likely. All right. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai, in the holy place. Thou hast ascended on high. Thou hast led captivity captive. Thou hast received gifts of men, ye for the rebellious also, that the Lord God might dwell among them. All right. So this Lord God is dwelling among the people. All right. So it likes this hill and it's going to dwell here and among them. So you can find the Lord there. All right. So just say, take out the word Lord and just say that extraterrestrial. That extraterrestrial is dwelling among that area. All right. 55, 45. They try to hide these facts from you, and many of their Salal race don't remember their own past and don't know these actual facts. What does trauma often do? Trauma makes us dis disassociate with certain things. I remember this one brother, he was telling me about growing up, and his dad wasn't really there. And for him to cope, he would just lie to people and say, "Oh, his like he gave his dad a heroic story about his dad like dying doing something." And that's what he would just tell people like, "Oh, my dad is dead." And then he said like as a grown man, he really believed that because he forgot that his dad was he actually believed that story. And then it was a lie that he had, and he just forgot the whole thing of his dad not being there. All right. So when you just think of the different things that your mind does or your nervous system does, the protections that your brain does to itself, it can disconnect. A lot of things in life I don't remember. I remember I ran into one of my old friends. They were saying, "Oh, remember?" I was like, "No, I don't remember that." But I just feel like, yeah, I remember. But no, I don't. I probably won't remember half the people I met. I don't know. All right. All right. So 45, they try to hide these facts from you, and many of their Salal race don't remember their own past and don't know these actual facts. Right? Because the reality is why were they bred in the first place? They were bred for three main purposes, but it started as one main purpose: slave labor. All right. Then it turned into being bred for food, and then it be turned to sex. All right, because then they started saying, "Oh, why don't we just breed ourselves with these women, all right, and give them our agenda?" And then we also, why not? Why not have sex? Because we can, you know. So that's a very traumatic thing, and how your mother is being treated. All right. Uh, and you really see that as a race, they don't really like their mothers. And uh, and as a race, we have to be careful that we're not turning into the beast as well. That a lot of us really have a chip on our shoulders about our mothers too. All right. And it's making us also forget. And we're starting to have a lack of compassion for each other. All right. Um, but when you hold on to the soul, you hold on to the compassion. All right. And you see, despite what your mother had some might have done or been subjected to, all right, you still have compassion for life and that you exist and you have an appreciation. Well, a lot of us don't even know why we're here. All right. And that's why suicide is so high amongst Caucasians. But as we lose our soul, you start to see us also because we don't see why we're here. All right. So all that is linking to that trauma, forgetting your past. All right. And if you forget your past, you forget your purpose. All right. So 45. It was not until new scrolls were undiscovered and stone Lawahat tablets found that reveals the whole story that some of them now know the Sadak truth about their wicked past. All right. So as the truth is being put out for all eyes to see, because they're finding 1947, 1945, they found all these scrolls in Sumeria, Egypt, all over the place. All right. And they finding even more things every day about themselves, about all of us, about the whole planet, about Africans. And we see that actually nature is vindicating us, but it's implicating them, and they're not liking what they're finding out about themselves. So suddenly race doesn't matter anymore because they don't like what they're finding about their own race. But while they were in ignorance, they love to push race. All right. So there's a reason why they're saying race doesn't matter, because they want to get into yours. All right. 47. Yet to divide and conquer others of these Salalu races, one, Afafre Kaahu Africans, two, Australu, that's Aborigines, three, Javaru Indians, and four, Nagalu Asians. 48. So they become offerings, sacrifices on their menu as bara food to their blood lusting, flesh eating gods. All right. So what's the purpose of them going to mix in with all others? That's has their own agenda, their own place and time. They go in to take us off our own timelines to put us all on the menu. So they go out and make sure to mix among everybody. All right. And they put everybody all on the menu who aren't naturally on the menu. All right. So they can become food, become offerings, sacrifices on the menu. All right. That's where they get scapegoat. All right. I did this sin, but don't kill me. If I offer you this flesh instead, you won't take my flesh. All right. So let's put other people on the menu so we can get off the menu. All right. Or we can broaden the menu, because right now it's just us on the menu. So it's in their best interest to get everybody else on the menu. All right. Because it could be really hurt to your ego when you found out what you were chosen for. All right. Because we have different chosen people. Everybody's chosen for something or another. Everybody has their purpose. When you find out that their original purpose, they don't like it. All right. So 47. They must keep you under a trance, hajj, spell, enchantment, charm, a hypnotic spell of Leviathan called religious beliefs, blind faith. In 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 7, and also Hebrew 11, verses 1. All right. 50. That is not facts. No confirmation, no proof. You just read the Bible and Quranic stories, legends, and listen to whomever explained them and believe. So Baabaa is not a preacher. He's a teacher. All right. But a lot of us like to be preached to. I noticed that there's some people that a lot of things that they can actually go out and you could learn that for yourself. But a lot of us like being preached to because we've been conditioned. All right. I'm also not a preacher. All right. So that's why it's like a lot of people, that's why I try to minimize the chat. All right. Because it's like all that time spent in chatting, you could be doing something else at your time. Okay, it's one thing to ask a question, but a lot of the questions that you're asking is right available all around us. All right. Once you've been sparked, you can take the responsibility to go find out. And the facts are not really confirmed in other scrolls. All right. It's confirmed in nature itself, in life itself. You'll see it being confirmed and played out for you. It's just that we have been conditioned to be blind to the facts right in front of us. So it's like notes are being played out. Like for me, I'm not really musically trained or inclined. I'm a little bit disconnected. So for example, having a music book, it retrains my ears to hear the notes that to me they all sounded the same before. All right. So now you'll start to actually be able to identify it around you. All right. That's the goal. All right. So there's so many scrolls because you see so many dimensions of the spell that we're overcoming. All right. So that's an inner job and also an outer job. All right. And a lot of us, we're always just looking for somebody else who sounds a little deeper than the next person. And to me, that's a problem. That's also part of the spell. If you sound very convincing, you have charisma, and you're charming, sometimes that's all the person that's like, that sounds good. That sounds right. What the brother said, that sounds deep. And it's like there's no facts backing it. All right. And we just eat it up. And it's like people love being preached to. All right. And uh, we have to outgrow that. Right. So there's a lot of things that I confirmed outside the scrolls. I read the scroll and I was like, I had no idea. I didn't know there was a color red. The whole time, red and orange look the same. I use an example. Just an example. So you just, whatever reason, you start to block out the facts in front of you. So now this has sparked that you know that there's red and orange colors. It's not just one color. Did you know that? There's dimensions. And it's like, it's just a little bit of a different dimension. Your eyes start to tune in. All right. And a lot of things have confirmed itself. And now I know the fact. And I know the difference of a belief and a fact. And there's a lot of things that started out as a belief. All right. And then I had to say, let me test that out. Let me go look into it myself. And now I've confirmed that. And I can hold on to that fact. And I'm like, that's a fact. All right. So I go look. The Bible always says, don't believe me, check it out. But a lot of times we want all the deep, heavy things that we can't confirm and things right in front of our face that actually give us the patterns for those larger things. You tune in. First, you acknowledge what's in your control, and it allows you to hit the keys for the patterns that play out. But we're looking out for some abstract. We're looking out for some abstract information where the tangible keys are right in front of us. All right. So, so I'm seeing it play out, not just in the Bible. It plays out right in Wusabat. All right. Because a lot of people are just comfortable with staying in that, being preached to, and they just sit there all day for hours and hours being preached to. All right. So 50, that is no facts, no confirmations, no proof. You just read the Bible and Quranic stories, legends, and listen to whoever explains them and believe. 51, you are a believer. You have faith. Not one fact to support this faith, as it said in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 7. For we walk by faith, not by sight. All right, let's go back to the first illustration right here. All right, we have the scroll of eyes. It's not necessary to walk by faith. All right, you have a teacher, not a preacher. It's okay to ask questions to your teacher. I don't understand that. I need to go look into that. Don't believe me, check it out. All right, that's a great student. All right, you're being active in your own learning so you can make sure you know what you know it. All right, there's a lot of things that I can't confirm everything. I haven't had a lot of things I've confirmed. Sometimes time played out. Sometimes, like Baabaa told me something 10 years ago. I was like, okay, that sounds good, Baabaa. I believe you. And then time had a cycle, was able to play out for me. And I was like, that's what you're talking about. I was like, Baabaa, you are right. I see it. And I was like, I got sparked. That's when it became a confirmation. 10 years later. All right. So that's okay too. Time sometimes, you know, a lot of things, experience, evidence, reason. All right. A lot of us, we don't need that. We're okay with faith. All right. Hebrew 11. This is what Hebrew chapter 11, verse 1, it reads. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. All right. You don't need to hope. All right. Why hope when you can pray? All right. And I was like, I remember I was saying something. This brother, I really appreciate it was an elder. And I had said something, and he sent me some good vibrations. He said something uplifting. I said, well, I can hope. And he said, why would you hope for what you could pray for? And I was like, you're very right. All right. And because now I know the power of prayer, the power of speaking vibrations. All right. And you're putting energy into motion. So I'm like, yeah, I can start tuning myself into it's something active I'm doing rather than just hoping and waiting for life to happen. I hope this can happen. But when I'm starting to chant, all right, because even before I didn't understand, like Baba had told me to chant, and I was like, I'm not doing something spooky like that. Thank you. But Baba appreciated. That's why he liked me because I feel like I'm authentic. All right, because I'm more of like confirmation. Because he said to me, I think he appreciated it too. But life played out, and I was like, you're right. I did try to chant, but it was hard for me to. I didn't understand the purpose. Until I started to feel the vibrations, and then I started to realize that I would feel different after a chant. I would think different, and I started to physiologically connect it. And I started to study. What really did it for me was when I started studying anatomy. And then I started to realize the different parts of the bodies and how it physiologically connects to different parts of your body, and how different vibrations could tune you this way or that way, and why they would choose certain songs to play. If you put on this song, you feel this way. You put on this song, you feel a whole different way. And I'm like, wow, you actually have more power in what you're saying, what you're thinking, and you're rewiring. All right. So now I became empowered to become active in my own destiny. All right. Rather than just hoping for something to happen. All right. So that was my experience. And you see confirmations, and I'm like, certain things start out with belief because I trust Baba. And there's a lot of things he'll tell me now that he's gained that respect, as I've gotten to know. And I'm like, he's been right about a lot of things. So now I have accepted, like, there's sometimes Baba saying things I may not understand it right now, but I'm okay with believing him. But I'm also in that belief, I'm still looking into it. And when that moment of confirmation happens, that's when it transforms from a belief into knowledge. Now I know that for sure. So now I'm talking from experience of chanting. I'm not just saying what Baba said, that you should chant at 9 o'clock, and you should chant at 3, and you should chant again at 9. Now I understand the power of the circadian rhythm, hormones. Also, being a woman kind of was helpful as well, experiencing my own hormones, and also being able to even use my monthly cycles. I realized that I'm able to do certain things and maximize it by studying my monthly cycle as well. So I'm like, if you have a monthly cycle where you can usher in, pull back, and actually do things and use that to your benefit, then your daily cycle is the same thing. It's just a different pattern, but telling the same story. So that's how the facts play out. That's how you get your own confirmations. But a lot of us, we're just comfortable sitting there being preached to. All right. So 52. Yet Jesus, their Christ, said, you must know the truth. All right. So there's people that spend 50, 40, 30, 20, however many years, and they believe what somebody who may have been here for 1 week took time to know. So just because we both are aware of certain information, there's a person who knows that information, and then there's another person who's aware of it. And that's why, like, knowing other languages is very helpful, because even in certain languages, they have different words to say no when you know something. So if somebody says that they're familiar with something they've heard before, that's a different word than when they say, oh, they know it. For sure, they know it for themselves. They actually have two different words to define, like, I know of that, or yeah, I know that. That indicates two different relationships to it. So a lot of times Baba just puts certain ideas in our radar, but it's up to us to take time to know what he's talking about, rather than just know of what he's talking about. All right. And Baba had also told me that anybody could sit there and memorize his doctrine. That doesn't mean anything, because I was telling Baba how smart somebody, like, oh, he's so smart. This brother's so smart. And Baba would say he's not he's not impressed just because somebody could sit down and memorize everything. Because memorizing something and knowing something is not always the same. All right, it's not always the same because I can memorize in school. I remember I won a storytelling contest because I was able to memorize the whole book from cover to cover, and I just like said the whole book word for word, but it was a fictional book. All right, and I memorized it. So you can memorize anything, Bob was saying. But do you know? Do you actually know? All right. Have you made a relationship? That's everybody's not doing that. That's what Bob explained. And I didn't really understand at the time, because I was just like wet behind my ears. But Bob was trying to say, don't be impressed by stuff like that. All right. So there's people who can recite to you the Quran cover to cover too. All right. So 52, yet Jesus, their Christ, said, you must know the truth. Bible underlines the word know. 53, and Allah, their prophet, said, seek knowledge unto the ends of the earth. 54, this is not just akad, belief, or have takuk, faith. Seek out the hakakat's actual facts. All right. Bob was telling me a lot about extraterrestrials. All right. I was just like, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, I'm like, what does that have to do with me? I'm on Earth right now. Yes, I mean, I could see that there's different types of Earths. But for me, the confirmation didn't just come because Bob said it. It just put it in my awareness, something I could know of. But where I connected my direct relationship to it was actually when I read an article. It was back in 2012. And it was actually Oprah. Oprah was somehow connected to the article. I can't remember, but that's when I first learned about Henrietta Lacks. And Henrietta Lacks, they call her Hella Technology, HELA, Hella Technology, and her DNA is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they have tons of her DNA, and they call her DNA immortal DNA. This poor black woman from the South. This was the actual real person from the 1920s. And she, I realized when I was reading all the industries that use her DNA, and I remember I ended up writing Baabaa about it because I appreciated him more after that. That all the industries. So, I realize I'm not charging my phone. That's Mooney. I'll edit this part out. All right. Let's just give the moment for the pixelations to clear. All right. So then I noticed that I was looking at all the industries that use hella technology. They use the word hella to hide that it was actually a person's DNA. And the medical industry, of course. But then I read that it was in the automobile industry uses hella technology. I'm like, for cars? And then also NASA. NASA uses her hella technology for something to do with their spaceships. So that's when it was like that was my genetic explosion. All right. That was when it happened. Because then I said, wow, DNA is linked to space travel. They need it for the coding, something in their ship. I'm like, well, they need some type of genetic code to even get out of here. And then I was like, wow. So then I took an interest after. That's when it became real to me. Everybody's confirmation isn't necessarily the same. Why are you taking time for you to know? All right. Or are you just comfortable with just sitting there and just being preached to all day? So then I was like, I was so appreciative of that article. And then I was like, wow. So then I said, Baba, I see the link now for genetics to space. All right. Um, so 54, that is not just Akkad belief and have Takuk or Takak faith. Seek out the Hakak al Hakakat, actual facts. All right. You don't have to just have faith. And I remember Baba saying that too. That if you want to just believe Baba and trust Baba and have faith because he said that, that's all right. But he didn't ask you to do that. He asked you to don't believe him, to check it out, look into it. All right. Hold the actual facts up next to life. Look at life again. He also wrote he also dispelled the word respect for me. And he said respect means to read and spec means to look again. So now you've been looking at life with blinders on. All right, you saw something, now look again. Now you hold this page up next to life. All right. And you could conform to the confirmations. All right. And your genetics will let you see as far as your genetics see, because everybody's genetics are not coded for them to decode all the facts around them. All right. As Bob explained something about color blindness, that you may be educated about the rainbow. Let's say the scroll teaches you all about the rainbow, but you may not have the cones in your eyes for you to actually see the rainbow. So you can memorize the facts, but you'll never know it, like the person whose eyes are developed to see the rainbow. So let's just say we've all been operating on two cones. Let's just say, because the spell of ignorance made us it made us disconnect from that third cone. So we've been looking at the world black and white. We read the scroll and we get an awareness. Now we've made a connection to that third cone, and we look back at life and we're seeing all the dimensions of colors that we've been overlooking for so long. But there are some people that their genetics were actually really two cones. All right. So just because we're reading the books, we're not all getting the same genetic sparks. And that brother or sister memorizing the scroll doesn't mean anything. That's why Bob was explaining that anybody could sit there and memorize anything, but everybody does not have the capacity to know what you can know. All right. They can memorize that fact, but they may not know that fact. And make sure you're taking time to know these facts. And every fact I might not necessarily know. Some of these facts I did memorize because I'm like, I haven't confirmed that. I don't know that. All right. But time has revealed a lot to me, or experience, or that's what he means, or that's how it plays out, or, that genetic will go off when it's time, and if it's in me for it to go off. All right. And if I'm actually putting myself where I'm consciously, because you're having the tools to live to your potential. That's why there's another book called Your Potential. And most of us never live to our potential. All right. So you have the potential to awaken that potential that's already in you. So Bible says that potential is already in you. So 55. If they did that, they would seek out the book of Enoch, found and translated. All right. So this is not faith and belief. Seek out the actual facts, because if they were actually seeking out the actual facts, they would have actually by now read the book of Enoch and found a translation, since Baba is referring to it so much. All right. Or a person, if they realize there's more to their story. Let's say you're a Christian or a Muslim. You realize, oh, all right, I've been holding 66 books if I'm a Protestant. If I'm a Catholic, I've been holding 72 books. But actually, I found that there's actually books that's been omitted. There's a lot of people like, no, I'm comfortable with my 66 books, or I'm comfortable with my 72 books. They don't want to look into to more, even though the awareness that there's more facts to their story, they're not interested. All right, they don't really want to know. All right. So, First Enoch, chapter 7, verses 1 through 11, it says, in its verses, you can read the same exact story found in Genesis chapter 6, such as, it happened after the sons of men had multiplied in those days that daughters were born to them, elegant and beautiful. And when the angels, the sons of heaven, beheld them, they became enamored of them, saying to each other, come, let us select for ourselves wives from the progeny of men, and let us beget children. All right. So now you're seeing that story of another species. If you want to say another race, you could say that. You see another species, another race, or another peoples, whether they're extraterrestrial, from another continent, from another planet. They're looking on and saying, oh, let us go and take those women so we can have our progeny on earth. All right. So now, Nuwapu Nuwapians of Wunuwap, open a Bible of today and read Genesis chapter 6, 1 through 5. You see the same exact story, only translators changed fair skin or ruddy flush, reddish white women to beautiful. All right. So you go back to a different language. Remember, Baabaa also, his specialty is language. People say the gift of gab, because Baabaa always said, I have the gift of gab. People always think because he know how to talk to people, which he does. But really, he meant also that he has the gift of language, the gift of speech, to be able to have access really to any language. All right. So linguistics is one of Baaba's specialties. All right. So in different languages, when you go back to the original text from the actual stone tablets that was originally recorded in, Baabaa has already translated. All right. The original words that were used, and how every time it goes to another language, how they substitute a new meaning to a word. All right. So now, Nuwapu Nuwapians of Wunuwap, open a Bible and read today Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 5. You see the exact same story, only translators changed fair skin or ruddy, reddish white women to beautiful. 56. Now more to verse 10 of the book of Enoch you will read. Then they took wives, each choosing from themselves, whom they began to approach, and with whom they cohabited, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and the dividing of roots and trees. All right. I'm also remembering something just popped into my memory of something else Baabaa said, how melanin itself is part of your psychic self-defense. And Baabaa was explaining that pill people, they actually have no natural defenses. And I remember him using it as saying that they have no mind. He used those exact words because he said they have no mind, so they're easily controllable. So I'm just thinking how these extraterrestrials would probably look. You're going to look at the compromise, and it would make sense to be like, okay, there's these vortexes, these Caucasian women. Let's go to them, all right, and then teach them how to spread those compromises, all right, because you'll have to go through the natural defenses, all right. So they created, so that's why I'm also hearing now, that's why they had to infect before they could affect, all right. So as you see, Nuwapu, because I'm also thinking how the woman's body naturally is, that there's natural defenses that your body can actually reject the male to the point where you won't even reproduce if it's not the right male, all right? But when they shut down the functions and you give up your divinity, your body stops working for you. So your body does someone else bidding. All right. So I'm even thinking about that because uh sometimes with some women, they will get with a person and their bodies will give them so much signals, they'll get rashes, infections, all types of things. And it's not because of necessarily STD or something. But sometimes the body is just rejecting that. It's like, no, um, or the mind or something is just rejecting that. That's actually your natural defenses. All right. And it's closing up those doors. All right. But what ends up happening is that you can disconnect those signals so much that you lose the sensitivity to yourself. And now you broke down the defenses. So now opportunistic things can start pulling the shots. All right. Because you turn her from alive to sleeping. So now that she's sleeping, something else can come and take over the vessel much more easier. All right. So let's see. So 56. Now move to verse 10 of the book of Enoch. You will read. Then they took wives, each choosing from himself, whom they began to approach, and with whom they cohabited, teaching them sorcery, incantations, and dividing of roots and trees. As you see, Nuwapians, the Hebrews left part of the story out of the Bible. Today, these Zazatatu women became the Mukshafu witches, all right, or also known as Kashaftatu witches, and their sons became Mukshafu warlocks, known as Druids. All right, so I'm also thinking that Baabaa explained that it's not in his power as a man to pass Mafkuzet. Mafkuzet comes by way of our mothers because it is passed through the mitochondrial DNA. But as a man, he can turn on a woman's mafkuzet because a lot of us women may have had the mafkuzet and it went dormant for whatever reason. We lost that connection, that compassionate life. It has to be turned back on, and the mafkuzet is actually inside of the mitochondrial DNA. All right. So, but also, Baabaa also explained that leprosy is also in the mitochondrial DNA. All right. So now you can have this program being inserted in the genetics, or this program being inserted in the genetics. All right. And that program would tell the body what to do, because we know that our mitochondrial DNA is part of our center that tells, it's the powerhouse. All right. It's part of the powerhouse because the mitochondrion is that cell, and the mitochondrial DNA is within the mitochondrion. And the mitochondrion gives the instructions for the body what to do. And then you have the mitochondrial DNA that also gives the instructions for what the body should do. So you can have some of the same DNA with different instructions programmed. And when we lose the connection, the mafkuzets, then we do the biddings of our fathers. And a lot of our fathers got into the genetics through oppression, rapes, and these extraterrestrials. And that's why they have us doing patriarchy. And when we do patriarchy, we can do their bidding of these extraterrestrials. And they took over our mother's lines. All right. And then they implanted leprosy into the line, disconnection. And now we have wars. All right. So their sons became Mukshafu warlocks. As Baabaa explained, we're not going anywhere without our mothers, because our mothers are the ones with the pass key seals. All right. You hear the pass key seal. Pass key seal has something to do with the mother's womb, with our wombs. All right. You also hear pass key because this is where our interdimensional link, and it's our spiritual signature. And Baabaa says that each woman's pass key seal tells something about her. All right. And you could fall up under a woman's pass key seal. All right. Your mother or your wife or somebody like that. All right. Um, and that that's all I know about the pass key seals. But there's Bible said that there's 4 women and they don't know who they are. And he's not going to say for their protection that they're holding these 4 pass key seals, and when they come together, it's going to open the gateway. And that's for us to get out of here. So all these brothers that are competing with the women, they're holding us all back. All right. Because we're not going out anywhere. And brothers that are just sleeping with women because they can. All right. They might be shutting down one of the pass key seals. We need to get out of here. All right. As a collective. All right. So it's that compassion of seeing your mother or your wife in a sisterhood. You know what I'm saying? And you feel protected on all 4 sides. All right. So that's why there's 4. But that's what I know about it. All right. And you know how patriarchy is really an alien force has to be responsible for that. All right. So these witches cast the Hajar Salal Lawi Tananu, the spell of Leviathan, on all others to make them forget the past, having amnesia, the spell of Kingu, also called the spell of sleep, religious beliefs. All right, you put the mother to sleep, now you put the genetics to sleep. All right, then you have all these sleepwalkers, or Bible calls these sleepwalkers mindless eaters. All right, they living by instinct alone, self gratification. All right. And they're just open conduits that they can do, really capable of anything. All right. So 58, and our race was who slept with them are attracted to them, fall under the spell of sleep of these nymphs, making all nymphomaniacs, living for Janah's sex and pleasures. All right. One thing that Bible says running through our tribe is the sex force, Leviathan. All right. Lust and luster. The brothers had a head start because mostly it was a lot of brothers more than sisters. All right. A lot of times brothers sat up there and they felt like celebrities, and women would just be in all like, I never heard that before. Oh, I'm so turned on. I want you. Right. And instead of the brother, uplifting her, he would a lot of times take advantage. And Bible said you need to stop this dick trend. A lot of brothers, instead of helping the race, they help themselves. All right. And this is not a secret. All right. So a lot of times, sometimes it's natural. You're talking about things that sometimes a person, they may see you as the one because you're talking about things that their soul might have needed. But instead of directing them to their soul, you're directing them to their body. All right. And sometimes you can uplift that person. Sometimes people have been attracted to me, and I redirect them back to the scroll. And I said, no, you're not interested in my divinity. You're actually being attracted to your own divinity. All right. And that has been a protection for myself and also for them. And then later on, they could be very appreciative, and they could say, thank you for not taking advantage. I mean, women, they practice diction a lot less, but they might do it in a different way to exploit people in different ways. Like a person, they might be all open and trusting you. And people do that. Lust plays out in different ways. It could be lustful things, all right, taking advantage of people's kindness. Some people just like to be worshipped, all right. And it's like, no, we're reminding. The brothers were supposed to remind the sisters of their own divinity, all right? But the brothers like the attention a lot. They like the sex or whatever it was they were getting, all right? So this is something we need to heal, all right? And Bob is explaining why that happened, all right? So our race who slept with them are attracted to them, fall under the spell of sleep of these nymphs, making all nymphomaniacs, living for Janah's sex and pleasures. 59, lust and luster, by their presenting the white women as a sex symbol, on all kinds of cinema, TV, magazines, pornography, the ideal model, used in all kinds of advertisements, endorsements, displays, and commercials. 60, she is on display as a sex goddess, a symbol of what is beautiful and sexy. Even our own black women. A lot of black men say, well, I don't like white women, I like black women. But they like the black woman in the white woman's image. All right. She put on a blonde wig or whatever she does under the white woman's image. You still liking whiteness with a little flavor on it. All right. Or that spirit force. You're attracted to that spirit force no matter what uh, image is taken. All right. 61, she has sexual skills, willing to do any and all things to please. And this is pointed out in their Bible, in the book of Revelations, chapter 17, verses 1 through 6. 62, the great whore, or how, H is spelled H-A-W-R, right? Abomination, fornicators, filthiness, with men of all other races, come to commit fornications with the great harlots. All right. So I just think about how the Caucasian woman is put on display to seduce all the other races. All right. And I even remember in college, I go to the basketball parties. And I remember I went to a basketball because the basketball parties are known to be like really a lot of fun. So I went. The first time I went to the basketball party was with a group of black girls. And we went together. We went together. We hung together. We danced together. We left together. All right. And then I also noticed, though, that the white girls, it's like the white girls would go and they would get all the attention and everybody's dancing with them. And then they would leave separately with different people. So anyway, I befriended also some white girls. So another time I went to the party with the white girls. And when we was getting ready for the party, I remember them talking about what sexual acts they were going to do, who they were thinking about. Oh, I can't wait to see such and such. They was already planning out. And I was like, wow, this is such a different experience. When I was with the black girls, they were talking about how cute they look, what they wearing, you know, and nobody did anything. At that time, I'm not saying ever, but they went there to go dance, wear something cute. The white girls was going to make themselves available, and people did partake, and they were and they would talk about what they already did. So that's why, and then I understood as I got older why they got more attention, because they made themselves available to do those acts. So the brothers, they just go in there to have a good time. They want to go with the people who's offering to have a good time. And so I noticed that our spirit force is changing, because it was an unspoken thing. As black women, you went together, you go to the bathroom together, you leave together. That was just an unspoken thing. And nowadays, it's like everybody's for themselves. So I'm like, wow, we're really losing our connection. All right. But that's just an experience. So, 62, the great whore, abomination, fornicators, filthiness, which men of all other races come to commit fornications with, the great harlots. 63, they left out how the white women, or the Adamite, the Enocite women, were taught: 1, sorcery; 2, incantations; and 3, the writing of roots. All right. So the reality, it wasn't a natural attraction. You had to be programmed to desire those things. All right. So they left that out in their story. All right. As you read, all right. So you have years and years of Marilyn Monroe and all these women. All right. These Caucasian women. And they were the epitome of sex appeal and sophistication, or femininity. All right. And I just remember, even like as a child, I would watch the shampoo commercials, and they would say, so soft, so feminine. And you're hearing that, it's like, oh, that's feminine. But my nature is nothing like that. So I take my hair out, it's not going to just fall and bounce. So I'm like, maybe I'm not feminine. And then our men who are watching it, they're like, I want a feminine woman. So they're going to want a white woman or a woman who's close to that image. All right. And that's been done to us. All right. And program. All right. That goes back to that sorcery. All right. Incantations. When you keep repeating the same thing over and over. Dividing of roots. All right. That's understanding chemistry. How different chemicals affect has an effect on humanity. All right, dividing of roots. All right, so uh you have people consume different things, whether it's from the plants or whatever the case is. All right, so that's all been programmed into the people. All right, all across the planets. All right, I even had this one Japanese one of my friends from college as well. He was Japanese, and I just remember he was a really nice person, very interesting, cool person. But the self hate had been programmed all over us. All of the other races are looking to Caucasians as the epitome. And I remember him saying that he felt bad for Asian women because they're not attractive at all. That's what he said about his own race. And what he said each race is known for different things. He said Asians smart, uh, black people creative, white people beautiful. That's what he said. That's how he defined it in his mind. So when he looks at them as a physical perfection. Black people, he looks at them for okay when you want to like tap into something new. And he said Asian people is smart, but he said when he look at them, he feels sorry for them. He said because they have these big heads, and the way he described them, I'm like, it's so sad, you know. And I'm like, the spell is really strong because you think that being Caucasian is an improvement. And there was another Asian man, I'm friends with him in the internet, and I read a lot of his blogs. And for him, he said that part of his dispelling was when he because he like Asian people, it's no secret that they look to Caucasian standards, Western standards is beautiful. And he said, just look at Japanese anime. It doesn't look like Japanese people, it looks like Caucasian people. Um, but he's not from Japan. He's from another Asian country. But he said that he went to Afrobeat. And that was like Afrobeat before it became not Afrobeat, Afropunk. Afropunk before it became like really commercial, but in the beginning stages. And he said he just for the first time when he was around these different black people, he said he saw them outside of the standards of whiteness because they all had on like different cultural attire. They all just looked like he found himself admiring them. And he said that's the first time he admired beauty outside of the standards of whiteness. And he said that's the first time he appreciated being Asian because it almost like it gave him permission to appreciate a standard outside of whiteness. And it was like it kind of dispelled something for him. And it didn't make him necessarily want to be black, but it made him for the first time ever appreciate being Asian. And then he looked at himself different after that. And um, so that spell is really deep. All right, so 64. And let us read on in the book of Enoch, verse 11. And the woman conceiving brought forth Zebarim, giants of the Nephilim, fallen ones, giants. 65. Now let us look at first Enoch, chapter 7, verses 1 through 6. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots and made them acquainted with plans. And they became pregnant and they bear great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed or ate all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured and ate mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour, eat one another's flesh, carnivorous cannibals, and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. All right. So they disrupted the natural ecosystem. All right. Because there's an order. This animal eats this animal. And this is the natural cycle of life. But what they started to do was they disrupted the ecosystem. All right. And they just had an unsatiable appetite that just required more and more and more. All right. And it's going to disrupt the natural ecosystem. So that's an unnatural act in the first place, which led to unnatural results. All right. In the very ecology. All right. 66. As you can see, reading this from the book of Enoch and the book of Moses, and Jesus and Muhammad deleted the most important parts about this undertaking, now found and exposed. All right. It was hidden for a while. All right. Baabaa said a lot of this war in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. Baabaa says if you pay attention to where the wars are being happening and where it's been happening, even the wars in Egypt and Sudan, all right, Baabaa says that a lot of that has to do with these facts that have been unearthed. And what they're doing is strategically having wars to destroy these artifacts, because all these facts that they took out and omitted, all right, is being, and now that we're in the time of internet information, they're fighting and people have access. All right. I can go to anywhere in the world now. All right. People have access and interest to where you can't keep these facts hidden anymore. Everything has gotten so much smaller. So now Baabaa says that's why there's a lot of wars in these strategic zones. All right. To destroy these facts from being exposed. All right. So 67, cannibalism of the seed of Adamites, and it's recorded in the Bible in 2 Kings chapter 6 verses 28 through 29, Lamentations chapter 4 verses 10, and also Lamentations chapter 2 verses 20, Ezekiel chapter 5 verses 10, Deuteronomy chapter 28 verses 53-57, Isaiah chapter 49 verses 15. All right, this is all instances of cannibalism that you can go and check out in the Bible for yourself. All right. So 68, their gods taught them to be cannibals like themselves, taught them spell casting, white magic, and they, the seed of Adam, the white race, still use these arts to this very day behind closed bawabat doors. All right. Also, when you go back and read the book of Leviticus, and you see with the Levi priests, how they make their offerings, it's very, very specific on leaving the fat, sprinkling a little salt. And the Levi priests were required to whatever they were going to be sacrificing, offering to God or to the Lord, that they were to partake. They would also have to take a piece of it. They would have to eat and consume a piece of it and then offer their sacrifice. And it's very specific when you go back and read the book of Leviticus, which will only take you about an hour to read it if you want to sit down and read the whole book. And then you see they had to eat it. And if they don't do the sacrifice the way that the Lord wants, that the Lord will devour them. And they use the word devour. So, and I was like, oh, that makes much sense, because the Levi priests, if they don't eat a piece of the flesh that they're going to offer, they're going to be killed on the spot. So I said, why would they do that? And I said, these extraterrestrials weren't stupid. Because if you're gonna try to poison me, you're gonna die too. That's really what I was like, okay, read between the lines. So you had to eat a piece so I know that it's not poison. Now I'll eat it. All right. Because they were terrified of these gods. When you go back and read the book of Leviticus, these Levite priests, they were on eggshells, and they were terrified, and they would do these things to appease the Lord, and the Lord would be happy. All right. If the sacrifice is done well. So if they're sacrificing some other person, whatever they're offering, it doesn't matter. They have to also eat it. So these Levite priests, if I'm going to kill the first offering of the calf, I'm taking a piece of that. If I killed another brother over there, I'm going to eat a piece of that. If I killed a virgin, I'm going to eat a piece of that. All right. So they always had to eat what they offered. All right. So 69. This story is also found in another lost book now uncovered and translated called the Book of Jubilee. Nuwapu Nuwapians of Vunuwap. You can read here in the Book of Jubilee, chapter 5, verses 1 through 3, which reads, and it came to pass when the children of men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters born unto them, that sons of God Elohim saw them on a certain year of this Jubilee, that they were beautiful to look upon, fair-skinned, and they took them as wives, all of whom they chose. All right. So where it says beautiful, it just says fair-skinned. All right. Which I'm hearing doesn't mean beautiful. They saw that they were compromised, easy. All right. So the same thing at the basketball parties. Like later on, I said, man, I thought when I was younger, seemed like the guys like white women more. And then later on, I saw it was actually more wisdom. No, the brother, he wants to go get lucky. So he goes where the compromise is. So now wherever the compromise is, you're going to go for the sure thing, especially when you're praying on somebody or something or for something. All right. So I realized that they wasn't going for the beauty. They were going just for the whatever's feel good. All right. So it's the same thing with these extraterrestrials. All right. So they were fair-skinned to look upon, and took themselves wives, all of whom they chose, because it would be their choice. All right. If you have enough defense, it's going to be the woman's choice. All right. But you go for where the compromise. So it's going to be their choice. So choose, and they bore unto them sons, and they were giants, and lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way, alike men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walks on earth. All of them corrupted their ways and their orders, and they began to devour, each other, and lawlessness increased on the earth, and every imagination of thoughts of all men was evil continuously. All right. So now we went from malformed. All right. So you have the compromises already to malfunctioning, the diseases of the mind. So what's in that person's imagination to do? All right. So it's like they might see, I'm using an example. A person may see a hopeless person. And in my imagination, I'm like, oh, let me go help that hopeless person. Like, oh, an old lady crossing the street. Let me go help her across the street. That's what comes to my imagination first. That's my nature. That's my function. Another person in their imagination, oh, an old person, let me go push them down. You know, that's what is inspired in that person's imagination. All right. That's the mind. All right. So every imagination of thoughts of all men was evil continually. All right, because they picked up evil genetics. So, verse 70. So it is clear why Hebrews left these books out of their Torah or Tanakh. They expose their true past, and many other Sephardic books have been uncovered and reveal their true, wicked, evil, unnatural nature. And the fact that their Salafu ancestors were cannibals who worked in witchcraft, white magic, calling on familiar spirits. In Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 10, Leviticus chapter 19, verses 31, and also chapter 20, verses 6 and 27. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 11. 1 Samuel chapter 28, verse 6. And also chapter 28, 23, verses 24. First Chronicles chapter 10, verses 13. Second Chronicles chapter 33, verses 6. Job chapter 19, verses 14. Psalm chapter 41, verses 9. Isaiah chapter 8, verses 19. Also chapter 19, verses 3. And also chapter 29, verses 4. They raise their dead spirits, specters, and ghosts. All right. So, and I'm seeing how that's taking place in many different facets of life. All right. So, part of my background, I'm Haitian. That's part of my background. And I've been studying more on Haitian history lately and Haitian spirituality. And I see the different infiltrations. And they acknowledge all this in the story, all right? They have different terminology to signify different aspects of the spiritual world. So you have let's just say 3 major components. But it's more than that. It's much more than that. But I'm gonna simplify it. So you have let's just say one group, and I'm not going to use the names, but I'm just going to say the grouping. So you have one groupings, which is our African ancestry. The African ancestry unadulterated, those spirit forces. Then you have another spirit force. It signifies another branch, which represents us after the wars and bloodshed, but it's still dealing with familiar spirits. All right, so things that has happened to the family bloodline, and it's going to have a different spiritual force, which is a lot more warrior-like, all right, a lot more violence. And then lastly, you're going to have a third branch, which are disembodied spirits that didn't ascend, all right. So those are the different branches. And that's why the different spirit forces call for them to do different things. So now you can have opportunistic entities that take hold of the body. All right. So they acknowledge that what has happened to them is the result of hybridization and different things. And it's already acknowledged. So what I love about Wu Sabat is going to help us to untangle our stories because they are already aware. And we can close those opportunistic doors, all right? And we won't have to do those blood sacrifices and different things anymore because now we see, as they acknowledge the trauma afterwards, that's a different branch, and then disembodied. And they all could affect you, all right? So now we're able to piece it, and it's not as random anymore, all right? So they raise their dead spirits, specters, and ghosts. All right. 1 Samuel chapter 28, verses 7 through 13. Elohim, gods, ascending out of earth. That is use of 1, necrology, and 2, necromancy. All right. Ascending out of earth. So those spirit forces ascending out of earth. So we're talking about the ones that's earthbound, most likely disembodied, all right, because this is the realm that they're stuck to, all right, necromancy. That's one of the third branches, all right. 1 Samuel chapter 28, verses 7. Then said Saul unto his servants, seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit at Endor. That woman was a witch, a necromancer dealing with the dead, necrosis. And that is exactly what the Zamaat's religions of the Bible and the Quran teaches. All right. Because naturally our women, by natural nature, because of our mitochondrial DNA, that's why we are depicting now nuts, right? And you see the oneness and all life growing out of her body, all right? So there's an awareness. She has access to everything that's in her body, all right? Every single organ, every single planet, all right? It's all happening inside her. But you start to turn those functions down little by little, all right? And then you go from 1 to branch 2 to branch 3. Now it's a open entity, all right? Because a woman who's connected is going to shut you down. So you need a woman that's already compromised. So it was like, behold, there's a woman with that half a familiar spirit at Endor, all right? So the woman was a witch, a necromancer dealing with the dead, necrosis, all right? Necrosis, you think of something dying, all right? And Baba explained how a lot of us, a lot of our women are sleeping where they must be resurrected, all right? And when things go into necrosis, it's like genetic deaths. Because your genetics, there's protections in the genes. You start to shut those genes off. You start to confuse the microbiology. You start to confuse the signals, all right? So necrosis, that's a form of dying, all right? And that is exactly what the Zamaat's religions of the Bible and the Quran teaches. It keeps us in a death state. 71. Those who follow them call on the dead, be they prophets, messengers, or angels. Christ saints, they are ghosts. Holy or unholy ghosts are ghosts. 72. They just tell you spirits, angels. They don't tell you the root word of angels in Hebrew and Arabic is malak. All right. And if you read the Lahaj language, you will see one molak, as in malak, in Genesis chapter 48, verses 16. 2, Milcom, 1 Kings 11, verse 5. 3, Molech, Leviticus chapter 18, verse 21. And Moloch in Amos chapter 5, verses 26. They all have the same 3 letters, MLK. And so does the use of angels and the Arabic Quran. All right. For some reason, I just got a picture of Martin Luther King, because Martin Luther King, we give our respect to Martin Luther King and all those before us, because Martin Luther King was very sincere. But towards the end of his life, one of his quotes, he said that we fought hard for integration and it seems like we're going to get it. But he's afraid now that now with the retrospect, he starts to see that America, its future didn't look good. All right. So he said towards the end of his life, he's afraid that he has integrated his people into a burning building. All right. So he offered his people on an altar without even realizing it. All right. So he took us back to those dead forces, all right, which he realized later in life. And a lot of our preachers, and that's what they did, you know. A lot of us, that's what we taught our children. A lot of our mothers and grandmothers, that's where they took us. All right. 73. And as you read, some are good, and some are evil. Yet you call on them, not knowing which will raise up, take on any form or shapeshift, pretend to be your saint, Jesus, prophet, angel, or relative. You just don't know. All right. So you open yourself up. Now, not all familiar spirits are bad, but as you can see, all the things that has happened to us, You know, even within my bloodline, I smell flesh cooking. I think it smells good, you know, depending on which flesh it is. I think it smells good, you know. Then there's different tendencies. So there's different familiar spirits when you look at a person like me, you know, if we're being honest, all right? So if you're not self-aware and aware of nature itself, you can just open yourself. Now, some could be for you, some could be not for you, all right? So we take time to tap into nature, all right? So we don't gamble, all right? So that's why I love Worcester back, because it's helping us close doors, things that happen to us, and open the doors that we want to. All right. So 74, and their Bible and Quran confirms their Lord Rab does have evil spirits. In Second Kings chapter 23 verses 24, and also First Kings chapter 22 verses 21 through 23, who lied to their prophets, lying spirits. He has evil spirits. So these evil spirits can be deceptive. All right. That's why Baabaa has different rituals for us. If you look at the Elder Scroll, one of our rituals with our elders, first off, is to get to know them in life. All right. Respect them, look them in their eye. All right. And then we have a ceremony as well where I forget exactly the ceremony, but it has something to do with looking into the elder's eye. I think they sit down or lay down. I don't remember. But you look into the elder's eye, you pay your respect, you make that connection in life so that when they transition on the other side, that you've already familiar with them and you can know the difference. Because a lot of the times, you can have different lying spirits, and it's like a man or a woman in life. There's people that'll tell you anything that you want, that you want for you to do what they want. A man wants to sleep with you, he's going to tell you how much he loves you, or whatever the case is. Or somebody, they're trying to sell you something, they're going to tell you, yeah, it's the best thing to ever buy. Spiritual, it's the same thing on the spiritual side. All right. So there's a lot of our disembodied spirits, or you might have an evil ancestor in your very bloodline, and they are just using you to a means to an end. They're not in your best interest to do their bidding. So they're going to tell you that they're that caring person. So that's why that notice that doors inward. All right. So so you'll notice that spirits can be deceptive as well. All right. And these extraterrestrials, all right, that passed themselves off as God, and they were very selfish in their agendas. All right. Same thing happens on the different dimensions. All right. So lion spirits, he has evil spirits. You read in 1 Samuel chapter 16 verses 14 and 23. Samuel 18 Samuel chapter 18 verse 10. Samuel chapter 19 verse 9. Their Lord, their God, dogs have evil spirits. And in the religions of Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, that is who you call on as kabatu, angels, and don't know it. And they can walk into your katat's body. All right? So listen to this. Dogs have evil spirits. All right? People, things that are happening around you. All right? And you call on to these other forces, and then they show up instead. All right? And then they walk into your body for their purpose. And when they're finished with you, they walk out. All right? Matthew chapter 17, verses 14 through 20. And Mark chapter 9, verses 14 through 29. Luke chapter 9, verses 37 through 43, 75. So just like Judas had an evil spirit take over him, also some of you who think you are doing the right thing don't know, because of years in the religions of Abraham, you have the evil spirit inside you already. in John chapter 8, verses 44. All right. A lot of us amongst our tribe. All right. That's the whole point of us clean ourselves inside out, outside in. A lot of people look around and think everybody else is the problem. And I'm like, you think you're immune to that spirit force? You're deceiving yourself. All right. There's a lot of healing. All right. For you to close those doors as well. All right. You're getting over somebody. You don't even realize that you're doing that. Or taking advantage of somebody's kindness or compassion. All right. Or whatever the things that we may do. All right. In that state. All right. So the first thing is to admit that state. All right. But a lot of us, we think we're doing something good and we're causing a lot of pain to people around us. All right. So 76, you don't think so. You don't feel that way. Yet you think and do evil by slander, gossip, and backbiting. All right. I'm thinking about that. All right. I'm not saying I'm perfect because I'm sure there's things I'm overcoming myself. So I'm not like putting myself like, woe is me, but I'm using this as an example. This room started just for the simple fact of reading scrolls, whether I'm reading it in sweatpants or whatever. All right. I just said we need to read the scrolls. And at the time, that's my best. All right. And a lot of people who came from me, I'm telling you, a lot of these people have my telephone number. Never once did these people pull me aside and say, hey, Noon Tech, should work on your dress. No. They wanted to humiliate me or knock me off the crown. Knock my crown off. Like it's crooked. Let me knock it off all the way. It's like help to uplift each other. Fix your sisters or brothers' crowns, And I just said, listen, in trying to come from my crown, you're gonna knock your own crown off. That's what I said, right? And I just continued to read. And then I said, I'm kicking you out the group because they demanded, like, let me back in the group, or so I'm telling Bible. I was like, I'm kicking you out the group because you're causing trouble and you're slandering. And they didn't see how they were slandering. They actually went to other groups. I was thinking about it today. It's so funny. And it was like, Noon Tech showing cleavage. I'm like, so why would they go and tell everybody I'm showing cleavage so they could come and say, oh, let me go see the cleavage? I'm like, to me, it's just, it was so ridiculous, and they might really think they're doing something good. So it didn't really work out, and if anything, Baabaa didn't even know I was doing this group until that happened. And then it got to Baabaa and Baabaa said, oh, I like it. Continue. And it ended up not working out in that person's favor. And it's like, you could, it's always important to check your intentions, all right, and the way you're going about something. And it's like, what did I ever do to that person? I never did anything to that person, all right? But it's something inside of them, all right? So that's why I give the compassion. I'm like, okay, there's something inside of them that person needs to heal, and hopefully they can heal themselves the way we're focused on healing myself. So I'm not just pointing a finger out. I'm saying there's things I'm working on. It might not be the same thing that person's working on, but that's just an example, all right? Because if you look around the tribe, you're going to see a lot of things people probably shouldn't be doing, but you're losing the opportunity to work on what you should be doing. And there's some type of spirit in you that's causing that divide. And I've also experienced the other extreme. I've experienced somebody pulling me to the side in a loving way without an audience and saying, hey, Zamalta, I'd like to bring this to your attention. And it's a much different spirit force. And I could feel it, so I responded different. In actuality, and also it was like it was parts of the message left out as well. It wasn't even the whole message. And I'm like, where's the date? When was that said? Why is it being said? Why are you saying to me now? And it didn't really measure out. So I'm like, you're weaponizing. Baabaa did say certain things, but you're weaponizing it. All right. Because you think, like, who does she think she is? And what's making you say that? Why would you even think? Why is that in your imagination to be offended by somebody that thinks highly of himself? Like, you want to cut me down a few notches. So that's something something that we need to do introspection, and we don't even realize. All right. So you don't think so, you don't feel that way, yet you think and do evil by slander, gossip, and backbiting. In John chapter 8, verses 44, it says, Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of it. All right. So, we only have a couple pages. Would you like to chat? Since we're doing our fast, most of us is on the chanting time. Or would you like for us to continue reading and then chant after? Actually, let's just chant after. We'll just chant together after. Right? So, all right. So, we'll chant together too, if you like. 77. You are Jawed wicked, and Dawal evil spirits make you think you are right. All others are wrong. You should be trusted. All others should not be trusted. You are the good one. 78. Your evil spirit walkings takes over your Akal mind and Katat body. Another thing Baabaa says, it's always a self-righteous that's doing the dividing. All right. And at one time I did feel like that. At one time I thought something's wrong with everybody. And then I was very grateful for life to show me better things I could do. And I'm like, you know what? A lot of people are untuned. And I could be very right, my assessment, yeah. But at the same time, I'm losing the opportunity of working on. I can't control what that brother or sister does. I can control who I am and what I do. And there's a lot of healing that's still needed in my own story. All right. So that alleviates that pressure of saying, well, everybody else is wrong. All right. I just want to make sure I'm one of the ones that are right. So I accept that I accept the healing as well when it's coming my way. All right. So that for me, that keeps those other entities in check. All right. Because I'm also willing to introspect. All right. And respect. And Bible says that's one of the keys of respect. All right. To look and look again. Look outwardly, look inwardly. All right. Look at all the degrees. All right. And what you have control over constantly is yourself. All right. Or do you? A lot of times we don't even realize we're out of control. All right. So 79, you curse at others. You blame all others. You sneak around for your lustful greeds. You think money, wealth, me. All right. A lot of times, sometimes a person, they might do something. They feel justified. Well, I'm a nice person. I only slapped that person across the face because they got me angry. But when we see somebody else slap somebody across the face, oh, that's a violent person. They shouldn't do that. And it's different because it's like, well, it's different for me because I have a story. Like, I have a reason. And it's like, well, everybody could have a reason. Yeah, if that's the case. So a lot of times we give ourselves an excuse because, well, I know why I did it. But do you know why that brother or sister also did it? All right. So you justify when you do something. It's okay. All right. Sabians, we don't curse, we don't gamble, but it's different for me because I only gamble because I need to pay my rent. Or I only curse because I got so mad. That's not really, I'm a nice person. And it's like a lot of times people would say they're the most nice, the most whatever, the most humble, whatever the case is. It's like usually it's the other extreme. All right. So you think money, think wealth, me. All right. 80. And what do? Pretend to be holy and righteous when in your Abab hearts is wickedness and evil screaming all the time. All right. So sometimes, that's why I do our best to connect people to your own divinity so you can work out your own story. All right. Because at times, yeah, it doesn't feel good to turn on the camera, have people tune in, You feel special? Yeah. You know, I'm going to say yeah. But it feels good to help people. But for whatever is inspiring people, a lot of times people, it's about me, me, me. A lot of times it's about we. All right. So a lot of times people pretend to be righteous. Some people are righteous. All right. But according to what Bob is saying, people pretending to be holy and righteous, but in their heart is wickedness and evil, screaming all the time. So even when they're doing something good and something nice, it's really not from a sincere place. All right. Not all the time. You know what I mean? If we're honest with ourselves. And that's why we have the breathing exercises, the chanting exercises, the meditation exercises. All right. Because it helps us to constantly tune up. All right. 81. You sometimes, all right, listen to this. The Bible is saying you, so he's speaking to all of us. All right. 81. You sometimes unknowingly work against our people. You work to divide our family, tribe, nation, yet you don't know it. As Judas felt he was doing the right thing for his people, you feel the same. All right. You could do the wrong thing self-righteously. All right. At the time, you could really be deceiving yourself. And the biggest thing is our ego. All right. And a lot of times we really think we're doing the right thing at the moment. All right. But it's one of those 30, or it's a disembodied entity, or it's your consonants. It's some type of compromise. All right. That's why we're fasting. All right. We're balancing our, the gut by microbiome sends signals to your brain too. All right. 82. You say, I love Baabaa, Pops, Yaanun, Atun, Ray, Doc, Malachi, and Isa, or Isa. All right. I really love him, and you do. Yet your familiar spirits, your walk-ins hates me. All right. That's another warning. All right. You may love Baabaa, or your 30 doesn't have to love Baabaa. There could be one in your own bloodline. You know, we had to consider that. I tried to tell this other person that they wasn't getting it. I said, listen, everybody in your bloodline don't have to love Baabaa. Maybe everybody does. Maybe somebody that you slept with at some point in your life don't let Baabaa. Maybe some belief that you have, all right, a disembodied entity that's active in your life without you knowing. Or and how you know is that there's certain parts of you that's more resistant, or certain things might be harder for you to conform to. All right. And it's easier when it's okay to admit that to yourself. All right. That's actually part of your protections, because what's in your conscious, you can consciously now be aware of that. All right. You could guard yourself. All right. That's why we have that chant. You're not chanting to some outside entities. You're chanting to inner entities as well. Chant number 3. All right. And when we're chanting, we're going to go over that, our chants. All right. 83. For the great work I do. All right. So a lot of your walk-ins hate me. Even though you love me, your walk-ins don't love me. Or your familiar spirits don't love me. All right. So 83. For the great work I do to break the spell of Leviathan and Kingu, the spell of religious faith, to trust in MLK. All right. Or Molech. 84. All right. So there's one of your ancestors that hates Baabaa. Like, this guy is really messing up the plan. Let me try to sever that relationship between Baabaa, or the facts, or whatever the case is, or cause confusion, or make them dislike that other sister or brother. All right. That's going to cause confusion. Let me disrupt the program. All right. 84. They know who I really am and how I can shafoy heal our people. So they walk inside you while you are angry, jealous, and use you against my kafashtum, freedom, and haya, life. All right. It's no secret, like, Baba said that, I'm a quote Baba. Baba said that love is a big reason why he's in prison. All right. And there's people that hate him, but there's people that love him. Sometimes that pendulum swings both ways. And it's like it reminds me of the movie Misery. All right. That movie Misery, if you ever get a chance, it always reminds me of Baabaa. Whenever I think about Baabaa, I think about the movie Misery. Because you have people that they're quick to, I was around 30 years. I've been doing this for a long time. That reminds me of Kathy Bates in that movie. And Misery, Kathy Bates, I forgot her name in the movie. I'm just going to call her Misery. She was in love with this writer. She was so in love with him. She was his biggest fan. And he was coming to her small town. And she read all his books. She loved him so much. So when she met him, uh, she ended up being his biggest supporter, biggest fan, and he signed her book and everything. I think that she invited him to I don't remember how he got to her house, but anyway, she kidnapped him, and she loved him so much, like she broke his legs, she did all types of things to him, so she could have him all to herself, you know. And when you think about that, you know, a lot of times, many of us we claim to love Baabaa, but the other person is a threat to our status or whatever the case is. We want to keep out to ourselves. Some women, they really want to be the only woman. Baabaa said he's not the type of man to be the only woman. You know, things like that. Or somebody wants a male or female. They want a certain status, or they want to be the most important. And all these entities are walking in their bodies, assuring that in a state of anger, jealousy, or who she thinks she is, you know, or he think he is, that they feel justified. All right. And I'll give an example. Bobby had told me to get with somebody else to do certain chants and different things. And I showed the letter. I had the date. Bobby actually wrote the letter to me on September 9th, 2009, 999. Then I read in one of the scrolls that was a gateway. So on an actual gateway, he actually mailed me something. And he told me to get with this person. At the time, I was kind of new. I didn't really understand what he was saying, so I just dismissed it. I was like, okay, he's on that spooky stuff again. But anyway, later on, like I understood the power, so I was like, it clicked to me later on. So I was inspired, and I said, let's get together. I have proof we're supposed to do something, but she don't want to do nothing with me. So she opted to do something with somebody else instead. And it, you know, it really hurt my feelings, but they felt justified because they feel like more important, whatever the case is. But this is all walk-ins, and I'm not just saying on that person's part, but it's happening all over the tribe, and people feel justified, and this is their walk-ins, and it's in the name of love, and that's scary. All right, so watch the movie Misery, and can you be a victim of that? Of course, you know, if you don't have that self-awareness, because it's okay for you to be the devil because you're the one that's close. All right. Your feelings are the ones that's valid. No one else's. That opens all kinds of dangerous gateways. All right. So, 85. I, Baabaa Yaanun, the Master Yaanun, am directing to anyone that who thinks they are the good, trusted, loyal, and devoted one, while out of your mouth comes forth slander, gossip of other Nuwapians. 86. The Sadak truth is you want it all for yourself. And you don't realize that is what motivates your actions. You say, I do it because I love Baabaa. He is my Mudad father, or my Sadak, my Sakak brother, or my Mudad, a Mumad teacher, or my Mustak friend. 87. You use these to shield your real inner feelings so you can slander other Nuwapians. 88. I warn you, it's not really you at work, it's a walk-in. All right. You're going to still be left with the consequence nonetheless, right? So you feel justified because, like, no, that's my father. No, that's my lover. Oh, it's different if I do it, because because I feel entitled. All right. I want it all for myself. I want him all for myself. Like Misery. In her mind, she loved that man. She was his biggest fan. And she really thought she was doing the right thing. She broke his legs, all kinds of things. All right. Because she wanted him all to herself. All right. All right. So 89. You will not think I am talking to you because you don't hear or see yourself when you are being an evil person, nor did Judas. 90. You still claim to be counted amongst my devotees, your Saud family. 98. Some want to return to old schools of Islamism, Ansarism, Sons of the Green Light, the Order of Melchizedek. Those all fall under the Bible and or Quran, governed by the ghost of the Abraham seeds. All right, so they're familiar faces, which we know, as Bob explained, that the Abraham seed has come into our family seed. All right, how did that? Just in the story of the rape of the Egyptian woman that produced the Ishmaelites. All right, and that was the first Arab. All right, according to that story, the first mingled seed. If you do a blood test on, and most of us, you're not going to find 100% African blood, even in Africa, all right? Because colonialism and different things, all right? And even if it's not in your bloodline, it's in your belief system, all right? So those disembodied spirits could get you even if the family spirits don't, all right? So 92, the Sakem power of these specters take over from time to time and make you want to go back to the old schools, because there the Nafas spirits have more power over your Katat's body and Akal mind by belief in God, Allah, Jesus, all spirit forces of Rab, Yeshua, Jesus, Isa, Mashaik, Messiah, and Mashi. The same spirits you just read as evil spirits of the Lord or God. 93. Familiar spirits of Hebrew Salafu ancestors who are slaves of flesh-eating aliens who want you. All right. So your enslavers are enslaved. All right. So your enslavers are in your blood, and they are enslaved to their enslavers. So they want to feed your body over to their spirit forces, and then ultimately you're right back with the draconians. All right. A lot of us, Baba said, that's why Baba said you're still on the menu. You got to remove yourself off the radar. But a lot of us feel comfortable. I like it in Ansar. I like it in the Sons of the Green Light. I like it in the Order of Melchizedek because I was important in those schools for whatever reason. All right. 95. Familiar spirits of Hebrew Salafu ancestors who are slaves of flesh-eating aliens who want you. 94. They need you, just as the Caucasoids need your positive blood types and your melanin, your plasma, so they can dwell under this Shamash sun on Taha earth. All right. Right in some of my African family got negative blood types. Most of Europe today has positive blood types. How do you think that happened? All right. The original Caucasian blood type is negative. But most Caucasians do not have negative blood type anymore. And now some of us have negative blood types. All right. So they need you to shield them, all right, from their fate. Feed you over. All right. 95, the aliens need your soul. Now, notes how translators play with this, Madat's word. 1, soul, as in S-O-U-L. 2, soul as in S-O-L, and 3, solar as in S-O-L-A-R, all right? Sun heat genes, all right? The original sun heat genes. They know what they are doing and will use you to get it done, all right? You're not part of the family when they mix in with you. You're just a means to an end. I read a paper and the school got under fire. It was a British school. and they were saying, if you want to re-implement slavery, all right, how would you go about? They made people write a paper. How would you go about enslaving another people? And one of the papers said they would specifically go and start mixing in with the women. They would find the women that they find attractive or whatever women as a means to an end. So now they can create a link and have children that feel like they're part of the family, but it's just a means to end because they can have the children do the bidding and it'd be easier to take over the people. And that was in the person's paper, but that's also in the Lynch paper. That's in a lot of the papers that I'm reading and the history, and also my family story. You know, it's on both sides. All right. It's all in there. All right. And then a lot of them, they do you do the bidding for them. All right. But it's a one-sided familyhood. You're doing the feeding, they're doing the eating. All right. You call that family. All right. So it's 95. Stop and akur. Think of your real sababat, reasons for slandering and gossiping about others. Not what you heard of them. Think of them or feel of them. Only what is making you feel you have the right to speak out against them for any reason. All right. So if I got my cleavage out, what is it to somebody else? All right. Why is it so important what I'm doing with my body? All right. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't help each other, but you can call a sister. That person had my number too. Right? But when they got kicked out, they made another group that I'm not even in to talk about new test cleavage. All right. And they feel like how's that helping anybody? We're going to make somebody come and see. Let me see the cleavage that they talking about. And actually, people came and they said, I don't see what she's wearing. That's so crazy. All right. That was what people actually made the room grow. It actually made me, I feel, finally be respected after that because people came to see. They was expecting me, you know, by what was being said, you would think I was teaching in lingerie or reading in lingerie. And it's like, maybe, okay, she's wearing that, but I mean, we all kind of wear those things. Or she's wearing a t-shirt or whatever the case is. I thought it was much more scandalous. All right. But person really felt, I know that they really felt they had the right to do that. All right. But I knew it was one of their spirits. And I was like, oh, I love what you're doing. Just keep reading them. All right. So 98. The familiar spirits conspire against me. They tell you you're protecting me. All right. Listen to this. All right. Because this can happen to anybody. I'm not just pointing out, and, you know, I'm not just picking on that person. I'm just using it as an example. All right. But listen, this could be any of us. All right, 98. The familiar spirit conspire against me. They tell you that you are protecting me, that you are helping me, when all along they are using you to stop my divine works and make you think you see and know things about others that I don't see or know. Stop it right now. All right. So that person, I really think that that person didn't realize that they were being such a troublemaker. Because they thought they was really doing, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They really thought they was doing Baaba's work by bashing me. And they thinking that they saying something Baabaa knows or thinks. When Baabaa don't know or even think that. All right. In actuality, Baabaa says she looks nice, you know. So it's like Baabaa don't always have a problem with what you have a problem with. That's one of your 30. All right. 99. So look at our Salah race as far back as you can look. Be they Yassar family, organization, group, or other masses, they separate, break up because of inside slander by our own. 100. One or more persons start the slander or gossip, which result in the breakup. What is that? It is divide and conquer. That is all it is. 101. All right. So now we're going to see it play out. Be they dance teams. All right. Dance teams, singing groups, clubs, gangs, organizations, religious groups, or inner nations. It's not unique to our tribe. I'm using our tribe because we all could relate to the same cause. Or anything. All right. whether it's a dance group, singing group, why does it break up, right? It always starts with our race from inside slander, gossip, jealousy, envy, disagreements, arguments, and mostly, quotes, it is, I heard this or that about our people's attempt to unite, are separated into groups of I am the only right one, the true one, the devoted one. I follow the teachings only, so I follow the teachings only. So come and follow me. All right. I'm going to say this very, very clearly. I've really never met a Sabian. I've met people that are striving to be Sabians, including myself. All right. Because when you go through this, the checklist of what a Sabian is, it's a long checklist. All right. So it's like at this time we're striving. All right. That's where the compassion comes from for yourself and others. All right. So for that person, for you to say, I'm the only devoted one, and come back me, look at how many people are saying that same narrative. That's the most common narrative. And everybody's against me. And at the end of the day, we're different. We're dealing with different degrees of different issues, all right, even within ourselves, all right. So that's what healing in life has kind of taught me. It's okay to sit down at the situation and also consider the part I play, all right, at all times, all right. And oftentimes there's things that you could like close. There's doors you could close in your own behavior at times, a lot of the times, all right. Or you can sometimes just dissociate and allow that other person to go through their own growing pains, all right. Because if that sister, like, let's say she means well, she got her walking, I'm giving her the space to grow over them, you know, and and I give the consideration that even though she's doing something hurtful, she really might care, all right. So 102, this is what Paul said, what Abu Bakr said, what happened with Marcus Garvey and the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Jackson Five, Temptations, Miracles, Supremes, and the Commodores. 103, the list is long with us as a people. Inside slander, gossip leads to separation and breakups. 104, now ask yourself while looking in the mirror, am I one of them who will cause the divide of Wunua? All right. If we're honest with each other, when we look at each other, there's things that we're going to see in each other we don't like all the time. Because if you're honest with yourself, there's things that you're going to see in yourself that you don't like all the time. You could hope fix your brother and sister's crown without announcing to the world that it was crooked. That's what love is. All right. But a lot of times you see somebody struggling, you go and announce it. Why would a sister announce to the whole tribe that I got my cleavage out? For people to come see and check it out. When we know we got to be at the end of the tribe. How does that help anybody? How does that help her? How does that help the brothers that come and the sisters who come to see? How does that help me? All right. When you can easily say, hey, let me call you up and tell you something, sister, that I think could be helpful. And give me the time to digest, because I don't have to accept it just because you said it right now. Sometimes things need to marinate and you need a chance to digest it. You can't force feed people as well. All right. So this is something for all of us, to consider. All right. So now ask yourself while looking in the mirror, am I really one of them who will cause the divide of Bunawat? 105, you will look at yourself and lie. You will say, I am not. I am doing the right thing. I am righteous. I mean well. I'm only protecting others. I know things. I see things. All right. 106, truth be told, you are the problem. And there are many like you who don't realize they are the problem. Not just Nuapians. They have been inside each attempt to unite Shakasu people over time. This is not unique to Nuapu. I mean, it's just playing out. But it's going to be time and time again. Right? 107, make note of this. I mean well, yet I am not mean. 108, you claim you know we have Paa Taraq, the overseers, looking over us, the watchers. You say this from our mouth, yet you step forward and cast judgments on others as if you are the overseer to do the work of our overseers, as if you have to right all wrongs. All right. So it's your job to go right all wrongs. Not your own wrongs, but to right all wrongs. This is a problem too. This is really what comes from the Abrahamic religions. All right. I've been guilty of that too. All right. A lot of times you think it's your duty to go and correct everybody else's behavior. That's not your duty. All right. It's your duty to share the facts. And that's why I like to read the scroll so the person could correct their own behavior. You read the scroll, you know what to do. All right. Apply it or not apply it. That's why in the beginning there was so much arguments. No, that's not what it said. I said, listen, read the scroll to the person or don't read it. But it's not your job to correct them. Let them make their own connection to the facts and they'll correct themselves. Because you can't change other people. You could change yourself. You can only inspire other people. All right. So let me repeat that again. You claim you know we have Paa Taraq, the overseers, looking over us, the watchers. You say this from my mouth, yet you step forward to cast judgment on others as if you are the overseers, to do the work of our overseer, as if you have to right all wrongs. 109. Is not that saying our Salafu ancestors are not Sayum protecting us, looking over us, and will expose whomever when they feel the right time, not you. All right. So it's not your job to go expose people. Oh, listen, this person doing this or that person doing that. This it's like, listen, you worry about you not doing it. All right. And then life will expose people. That's why I also said that to that person. I said, trying to expose me, you're going to expose yourself. You better fall back. But they ended up falling back because Baabaa ended up writing a letter in my support. He ended up sending a message in my support and actually had the same people put the message forth as well. And I appreciated it. And I haven't been bothered ever since. And I really appreciate it. Like, listen, give me time to make my connection. Worry about your connection. All right. Okay. I ate chicken yesterday. I ate a hamburger. I didn't, but I'm just saying. I ate a hamburger. That's my business. That's me and my ancestors. Let my story play out. You don't know my story. There's things in your story. All right. Things that you should be doing as well. All right. So we can help each other. And that's how you can actually ease the ego. All right. Because a lot of times you come attack a person, they're even more resistant. You're actually hindering their story. All right. That's self-righteousness. It's like, listen, did you know that this leads to that? I wasn't sure. I didn't know that. When you say it like that, it makes me think, thank you so much. That's different. And then you let the person be as well. All right. So you don't see yourself. All right. It's not for you to expose others. It's for nature to do that. The ancestors to do that. All right. 110. You don't see yourself. You are going through our Shakasu people of Wunuwap, spoiling and separating both seed and offspring, coverts and all old timers. All right. You're discouraging people. You're hurting people. All right. Baabaa didn't meet you at your best state. All right. He saw you go through your different stages. All right. But you're damaging the very people that he's raising up. You're interfering. All right. You're not hoping. All right. 111. If it is announced to you to stop the slander and gossip, you say, I'm neither. 112. Instead of repenting, you respond with self-righteousness along with evil deeds. And finally, you rebel against me furiously. All right. So now when the time for you to be like, have I done it? There's a lot of things I did. That's why I always say, there's things I'm working on. I don't have time to focus on what that brother or sister is doing or not doing. All right. If they're doing the right thing, I'll gravitate towards them because they'll help me. If they're not doing the right thing, I'm just going to gravitate outside of their company so I could work on things. My time is very limited. All right. In this physical body. So I got to be conscious about what I'm doing. And I could also repent like, oh, wow. That's where the reformation's happening at the repentance, because there's things that you thought was the right thing to do. You got more information and you said, wow, I don't want to do that anymore. That's a form of repenting. All right. That's a form of reforming yourself. And that's why Baaba's here. So, of course, you're going to look around, you're going to see people that's not doing the right thing because they're in their process of reformation. But are you? All right. 113. What a diabolical sight. Do you know? Do you yet not know who I really am? All right. So it's talking about people when he gives you that information to look at yourself and you say, oh, not me. He says that's diabolical. All right. What a diabolical sight. Do you not know who I really am? All right. Sawab, Kaun, Sawab, truth is truth, without beginning, without ending. All right. So I remember also Baba has said sometimes people send pictures and he's not looking just at the person who sent it. He's looking at the people around you. All right. And a lot of times it's telling him a story, because sometimes a person I'm gonna send the best picture of myself. I got all my garb on, everything is nice. And I'm gonna send a picture of that sister or brother in this worst light. And Baba's paying attention to that, because Baba's gonna look at that picture and say, well, why didn't you tell that person? You know, it's like you think you're telling on the person, but really you're telling on yourself. So he sees, oh, you're hoarding the facts that I'm sharing with you. You just you think you're dressing yourself up. And, I remember him saying something about like that as well. So a lot of times, I remember I maybe go to the store with flip flops, and I ran the bookstore because Bob didn't really tell me what to do. He was just watching, and he seen me running the store with flip flops, or maybe like a little short dress. I just like to wear that. It was like a cotton dress, and he never said that looked bad. But sometimes people take pictures, send it to Bob, and no one ever told me nothing. So Bob would just say, "Oh, she looked nice," you know. So it's like, but really, he's saying, how long is it going to take for them to help each other? You know. So you think you're making that person look bad. The reality, you may be exposing yourself. So do you really know who Baba really is? So that's why it's in your best interest to help each other and do it from a place of ashuk, because you're also being helped. That's why Baba is saying, helping someone else, you're helping yourself. All right. So exposing somebody, you're also exposing yourself. So be ready for that as well. All right. And it's all right that you have a human journey and things that you learned along the way. Wasn't that the point? All right. So we're going to just take a moment. All right. We're going to just pause this reading before we have our discussion, and we're going to chant. And then we're going to get back to our discussion. So one moment. All right, Moisa. So we just chanted as a family, and we're fasting as a family. All right. I remember Baba says that you're not family until you become familiar with each other's feelings and emotions. Until then, you're not family. So we're being real with our emotions and our feelings, and we're familiarizing and realize that the most personal things are actually the most universal. All right. I'm not sitting up here as an expert chanter or expert of the scrolls. Some scrolls I didn't even read yet. But I'm sitting here as a fellow sister working on myself. All right. And it's been very helpful to work on myself on a platform and create a space where whoever wants to work on themselves, they could come and familiarize themselves. So we read Divide and Conquer, all right? And we ended it with looking in the mirror. All right, that's how Baabaa ends this scroll in the last few verses. Look in the mirror. Right. So, what is everybody taking from this chant? I mean, this scroll. How can you relate it to your everyday life inside and outside of the organization? And what does it make you think about?
Yeah, Rahubat Musa.
Oh, Rahubat Zamalta.
Yeah, so like all Baba scrolls, it's been yeah, an eye opener. I don't have the scroll, so yeah, I would love to one day. Yes, and that's the thing. You read something and then you need it. I need all all of them. But it was very interesting for me. Like when you first started that word, witches, meaning the daughters of forgetful ones, and I wondered, like in a way, if we forget who we are, do we then also become witches without even knowing? Because if we don't remember who we are, then we are behaving or acting differently than to our true self. So therefore, in a way, we also become witches, or at least that's how I processed it. So that was very interesting for me, just realizing that. Yeah, so it's something that is playing on my mind. So I'm like, am I a witch without even knowing that I am a witch? Yeah, it's a very interesting question. And again, looking at some of the manner in which I behave and the things that I do, without even like complicating it, one can choose a different word for it, but it just started me on that sort of like that kind of thinking to say, I may be a witch without even knowing because I didn't even know that meaning behind it. Even if it's not going deep, but just a different way of looking at myself um, with the little bit of understanding that I got from the scroll. Um, and I think one of the things that really made me slightly sad is that I have a son, and for I didn't circumcise him when he was long. I didn't make that decision because I was like, it's his body. I'm not gonna do it. And I think he got circumcised probably when he was 13 or yeah, probably 13 because he's 15 now. And it was him who said he wanted to get it done. And I didn't even have this knowledge, but I waited. So, and then I'm like, maybe deep down, a part of me just knew that something was off, but I didn't have the right words to use and teach him to say, don't do it. These are the benefits and these are the losses. So, so that is something that I have to sit with and forgive myself for, because I can feel just a little bit of tinge of guilt. Not so much, but I know I can feel it. Then it's there. It's something that I need to work with. But I know that I didn't know. So those are some of the things that the scroll brought up. I mean, the Arab slave trade, I didn't do history per se in school. It's something that has never interested me, precisely because it never made any sense to me. Like, how can someone tell me my story? Because the things that I was reading and the things that the elders in my community were saying were two completely different things. And because their history was oral, and the one that everyone was learning in school was written, then it was regarded as the truth. So I never liked it at all until like recently. So yeah, it's something that I'm going to look at. And what is interesting for me, I remember there was that show that came out a few years back, and what do they call them? Is it a eunuch? I could be wrong. The name.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And I was like, that's so bizarre. And now I'm making the connection of wow. So actually, those characters were based on a true story. So yeah, so that's something that I will have to look at via the internet, because I don't have a library. So I'm very grateful for the internet. That's my library. That's my go-to place to look for information. And then there was something that Zamal Kosi mentioned earlier when he was asking his question, and it made me think of, I think deep down in my mind, when I was asking the question, I was like, because in general, we were brought up in religion, regardless of how deep one went. In the back of our minds, there is that savior mentality. We are waiting to be saved. We are waiting for somebody to save us. And then when someone comes into Wusabat, then Baabaa is looked at as our savior, even though when you read the scrolls, they'll tell you that the helping hand that you're looking for is at the end of your own arm, but it's still not registering to a certain degree because of the wealth of knowledge that he has. So it's almost like, of course, he's going to save us. And at the same time, there's also that savior mentality even within ourselves, the need to actually also save somebody. So it made me think, like, even with this information, I think it goes back to the comment that I made, I don't know, in the past week, to say, when I want to share it, whose need is it? So I'm constantly asking myself the reason why I want to share the knowledge. Is it so that I can brag and then I can come across as if I know, a lot? Or am I genuinely interested in helping the people? So yeah, those are some of the things that are playing in my mind, and it's, I understand why it's so difficult to comprehend, our ancestors' actions. Like, why aren't they serving us? Um, Especially from this realm, from these physical bodies, because it's just two different planes of existence. So, and of course, because we are here in this physical, it's easy to quickly feel frustrated, blame them a little bit, like, didn't they know that this was going to happen? Why didn't they come and save us? Why aren't they coming to save us? So, yeah, because I have been through those emotions as well. And that is the beauty of Baba's work, because the more you read and then you get to understand, and like you said, when you look at nature, right now, where I am, it's winter, and all the trees are starting to lose their leaves. The other day, I was driving back, and they are burning the grass so that when summer comes, then fresh grass can grow and stuff like that. And Mother Nature can take all of that if she's resisting, or we're not aware of it, because in her resistance, she's not swallowing us up. Majority of us, are still here. So yeah, just to also look at that and understand the cycle of life, and it's something that we are missing. There's something when it comes to people where we just want things to happen, to snap our fingers, and then things must just happen right now, and then we move on. But like, are we even ready to be saved? Not even that sense of being saved. Like, if Panathar were to come now and they say like, oh, we're here to save you. I think it was a comment that Second made on OSN, was like, even if Jesus was real, if we were to come back and say that I'm Jesus, no one would believe him. So like, if Panathar were to like, oh, we're here to save you, would we even believe that is them? So yeah, I'm gonna stop because there's a lot so that someone else can speak.
It's kind of giving us the detail of what we've been going through and the different aspects we might be missing. What else? That's what I think about when I'm hearing about this scroll. Yeah.
So to me, that's Wu Sabat. When you can look out in life and apply Wu Sabat to life. I remember, Linky, you had said before, like, how do you share the Wu Sabat? Because a lot of the people in your village and town, there's so much Bible and Quran, and that's not really relevant to where you are. So how do you share Wu Sabat? And I'm like, whenever you're sharing facts and the patterns of life, that is Wu Sabat in action. Wu Sabat is not stuck in covers of books, and it's meant to open up a whole universe. So these are just tools to make us tap back in. And actuality, Wu Sabat allows us to talk to anybody in a language that is relevant to them. All right. And we have extreme examples so that you'll be able to spot the subtleties, because there's extreme examples. Sometimes it's easier to see the extreme, but now when you see that extreme has morphed into a more subtle form, you'll be able to see that same pattern. So we see you could see the Caucasus, the Caucasian, from a mile away, but you can't always see that Caucasoid spirit when it's in another form. All right. So now when you see that form playing out, you can start to see it in subtle ways, or in yourself, or if it takes another image. So that's what the scrolls do. And then you realize it's making you think into so many dimensions. And go as deep as your genetics will take you. Some of us are more shallow, our genetics stop there. Some of us, it just rounds out in so many ways. So it's always nice to hear your mind, and also forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for the things that you did in ignorance, because I've already made peace with that for myself. At times I was so disappointed, because I'm doing the best that I can, and sometimes you come across these scrolls and you feel condemned, like, oh my gosh, I did that. And it's like, the reality is, if you had it all together, you wouldn't have to read the scrolls. So a lot of times you're finding things like, oh, I could have did that different. That's a form of healing. And forgive yourself. And the great thing about that is it gives you room to forgive others. And that's why when Baabaa in the Holy Tablets, not to bring up the Holy Tablets, also in the Man from Planet Risk, Baabaa talks about his journey when he was going through an initiation. And he was going through these tombs, and he kept failing on these tests. It was like step 1. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to need water. I'm going to need food. Like all the things that we're going to need. And they said, okay, you failed the first test. He was like, oh man. Step 2, you failed the second test. Ah man. He failed all the tests. Baabaa failed every single test. He got frustrated. He got so mad and frustrated. He just threw himself against the wall, like he lost his temper. You failed the next test. The next thing you know, he was outside the pyramid, and then he was right at the outside. And they said, you failed the test, but in failing the test, you passed the test, because now you can have, you'll understand the school of life. All right. So a lot of us been there like, oh, I give up. I can't do anything right. I'm feeling everything. And I realized that Baabaa went through that, and I didn't understand that story until I had my own story. And I was like, man, if I'm honest, I failed that test. And admitting that I failed the test, I actually passed it, because now I have that compassion to extend to others, and I can understand, because the reason why Baabaa failed the test, because he was sent to humanity, and he could understand the frustrations of healing people's story. And now when we went through certain things, we feel less likely to be like, why is these people doing that? We can kind of connect to humanity because we've gone through it too. Baabaa went through it, and he shared his story. I went through it. So now you're going to go through it. And it's like, man, as a mother, I could have done this differently. And it's like, forgive yourself, and share that. And that also telling your children that you made mistakes, it allows them to also correct their mistakes, So Baabaa, that means father, he shared his vulnerability. He's giving you permission to also be vulnerable in your story. All right. And then we could grow in front of each other. All right. And still be respected and have our shift. And I started to learn to be gentle with myself. And then it allowed me to extend that compassion for others. And now I don't feel so angry at people anymore, because at one time I didn't like people. Then I realized I was people too, and it's okay. So, yeah, so that's what I take from your experience, Nikki. It's all right. I appreciate each and every one of us, And if you can make that inner journey, your own pyramid story, your own breathing, learning to accept your emotions and work through them, heal through them, then we're going to be all right. Just like Baabaa ended up being all right. And they say you passed. All right. So, we're going to keep working on ourselves. All right. In our human stories and our divinity, in our divine state and all that. So, tawakum, everybody, for working on yourself as we inspire each other. All right. And it's better to be authentic than to fake perfection. All right, because that's where we get in it. That's what this scroll tells me too. Be authentic instead of faking perfection. Because now you could, I can do better than that part. That's okay. So, with that being said, I shook Mossad and Tawakum for coming together. Continue fasting. We're on day 6. All right, tomorrow we go to the 3rd trimester, the final 3 days. So, I shook Mossad. What do?